Hey folks, how are we? What's today? Tuesday? We don't normally do Tuesdays, but happy Tuesday. All right, I'm gonna give you guys like 5 minutes to get on while I get all my little notes together here. Okay, I feel like we haven't done it live in forever. It's okay, life happens. All right, where are we? Don, it's kind of on me. I didn't drop the notification until like 10 minutes ago, so you're early. Don't worry, or you're on time. Hello, folks. Let me get my hellos in. By the way, we barely made it on. Like YouTube has changed their, I guess their interface with how to set up the lives since I last did a live. I was like, wait a minute, everything's all different. Can you guys hear me? First of all, I didn't even do my sound check. Let's see. I know this thing's not already latent. Oh, that's just y'all coming on. Okay. Yeah, we'll start in a few minutes, folks. Hopefully, can y'all hear me? Yes, perfect, good. All right, we're gonna get this cranking here. Hopefully you guys have had a really nice and safe summer. It's been very eventful. I've kind of tried to, I don't know. Life is crazy, so I'm just rolling with the punches right now. My chat is so latent, like it's, oh God. I normally, because the little interface wasn't working right, I had to like keep switching browser little units because I was like on Firefox and then that wasn't acting right. And then, Safari's trash on Mac. And then now I'm on freaking Google Chrome, which is like the worst thing to use for this, but it's all right. It is what it is. All right, so let me adjust my little station here. I feel like I'm not looking at you guys. Okay, trying to get this right. I normally have my little fun little rolly chair, but I noticed that I sway back and forth in the chair, so I got to get the stationary one. All right, let me get my hellos in. Boom. What up, Jalil, Janet, Jennifer Smith, Tamika Miles, Jay Jones, Byron. What up? Yes, sir. Give me a beat. What was that? Galactic Dragon, Nathan Moore, Lenore Thomas, Cynthia, BBL 78, Laura S, Albert Old School. What up, sir? Oh no, Matthew had COVID. It's kind of scary. One of my coworkers has a really, really, really bad case of it. Like they're in ICU, everything. So hopefully they're able. They don't work at my center, but we've worked together in the past. So hopefully they're able to pull through because it's not looking good for them at all right now. Like it's like conversations about the ventilator and stuff. I'm like, geez. So we'll see how it goes. Best wishes to them. All right. Freddie Myers, Kimberly Smith, Sunfires, Fire. What up, Alan? Don Worthy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and slowly ease into this because I think it's been about 5 minutes. All right. That's why I put my phone on silent. Sorry, y'all. I just got home from work not too long ago, so. All right. Glam Gal, don't worry, you're not late. Y'all already know the first 5-6 minutes we don't do nothing. But yeah, so just a few things. So I already put it in the community announcement. But yeah, there's a new episode of the podcast out, Comedically Hard-Headed. So it's available on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeart, SoundCloud, pretty much anything that you can pretty much find music on. The podcast is on there. And that was the 25th episode too. Pretty cool. So yeah, that's available. Some of you guys have been asking about that. And then some of the other dates I had in here. Let me make sure I read it right. The So What Happened, the next episode comes out. I think I wrote September 24th. Let me see. Yep, September 24th. Let me just tell y'all, I shot that thing 4 different times because each time I shot it, I was like, nah, it didn't hit the way I needed to hit. And I went back and redid it and redid it and redid it. If you remember, like that thing was supposed to come out back in like May. But it's just like I needed to get it right. And then life be happening and stuff goes on. The shout out series is September 30th. There was so many. I think it's probably going to be broken down into 2 parts, but they'll both come out on the same day. And then Army is Dead, October 8th. Of course, I have other stuff in between, but those are just some of the main things people kept asking for because y'all are chasing me down about this. So what happened? When is it coming? Look, it's coming when it comes, all right? Leave me alone. All right, let's go ahead and jump into a few things. Let me start first. Everybody in the Gulf region. I know we have a lot of people that are subscribed that are in the region, like Mississippi, Alabama, portions of Florida, Louisiana, Texas. Best wishes to everybody who's been affected by Hurricane Ida. That was kind of scary. I will say, for those of you who want to like donate or support, we already know Red Cross is kind of iffy, so we normally bypass them. But if you go on charitynavigator.org, it gives you a list of organizations and charities in the region that are viable that you can donate to if you want to support. You can also check out guidestar.org. They also do the same thing because, again, Red Cross, they kind of burn the bridges after we all saw what happened with Haiti. Y'all take all that money and then you build 5 or 6 houses. Y'all tried it. So again, for those who want to donate or find a way that they can help, again, you can check out charitynavigator.org. It will give you the list of charities in the region that are actually viable and actually doing the work. Because, sometimes folks start claiming charities and stuff when something go down and they just taking all the money. And the other one, again, like I said, guidestar.org. All right. But, what was crazy, I think what I didn't like is that with this storm, you saw so much critique of the residents in the areas that were affected. And people kept saying, well, why didn't people leave? Why didn't people get out? Why did they just stay there? And I think people need to also understand that, the dynamics of this storm continue to change drastically. 20 hours before landfall, it was a Category 2. The communication was a little iffy. There wasn't a mandated evacuation locked in because it didn't seem like at that moment it would be, a big deal as far as a storm. And then boom, it goes to Category 4. And so at that point, now you have what you call like the bottleneck exits where everybody's all trying to get out at the same time. And you have freeways, locked up and blocked in and everything else like that. And so, sadly for a lot of people, it was just, there wasn't enough time to get out because the communication came as if, oh, it's not going to be too bad. And again, a region like the area where New Orleans is always gets hit with hurricanes, so a lot of times if it's a Cat 1, Cat 2, they're not really too stressed about it just because usually, cities start to build their infrastructure. They had already reinforced the levees after Katrina. So it didn't seem like it would be too much to worry about. And again, this is not just New Orleans, there's parts of Mississippi that were affected as well. But again, I think the communication just kind of was already a little all over the place with leadership. And then I think the other thing is people need to also understand this is also socioeconomic conversation. Everybody isn't always in a luxury or capacity to just leave. There's some people who don't have transportation. Where are they going? There's some people who don't have the money. Even when they go somewhere, where are they staying for a few days? Because again, with these storms, people are already being told, don't come back for a few days because hell, there's no power over there. There's a bunch of everything. Everybody doesn't always have the finances to go and do things. And then again, depending on what kind of jobs people have, some people's jobs are so terrible, they're going to still force people to try and come into work with the storm. You know what I mean? Or, it's not that big of a deal. Figure it out. I'll never forget. This is almost unrelated, but I'll never forget Hurricane Sandy and the fact that I was still getting emails. It's storming outside, hurricane outside. Oh, do you think you can have this to us by 4 o'clock? I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to have power in the next hour. Leave me alone. But again, and then another thing is also you have to think of people who have family members that have any kind of health condition, parents who have children that may have, some kind of condition where they need to stay on some kind of monitor or they need to stay plugged up. It might not even be children. It might be a parent or a spouse or a relative where they have to stay plugged into something, some source of electricity. So they just can't hop in a van and go anywhere. Coming from experience, when my father was still alive, at night, he had to stay on his little oxygen machine the last 2 years that he was alive. That thing had to stay plugged in. So if the power was out, we had to quickly run and find, the alternate oxygen thing, but that would only last for a few hours. So again, these are things people have to think about when it comes to evacuating. That's why when it comes to mandating an evacuation, the more time that people are given, the better. But sadly, it didn't look like this storm was going to be the kind of storm that it was until it was almost too late. And I remember some years back, this is when my family was still in Savannah. They actually are still there, but there was a storm that came one time. And again, it was another one of those last minute announcements where it's like, yeah, y'all might want to get out. And so they got out, but it was so last minute. Remember how I said that whole bottleneck thing where now you have everybody on 95 or on the freeway? They slept on the freeway as the storm passed over because the 95 was just so blocked So, and congested and people all trying to figure out, whatever they got to do. So again, I think in these moments, I think it's in poor taste to criticize people who, again, this is their whole life. This is things that, things get uprooted. People's lives sometimes get compromised or destroyed. And a lot of times when you're watching from the outside in, just either donate or shut up, or you go down there and figure out a way. You load up a bus to evacuate some people. Again, like sometimes these conversations also deal with, conversations around wealth. Everybody doesn't have everything to just up and go just because, you know, and that's why, again, a last minute announcement to evacuate, sometimes it does more harm than good, sadly. And then the other thing is I saw this on, I think it was on Twitter, some crazy, I feel like it was a troll account, but the account was talking about like, you know, why do people still even live in that region? Clearly they keep having storms. Why are you still living down there? And it's like, all right, one, in the United States, there's not too many places you can live where you don't have to worry about some kind of natural disaster taking place. It's just reality. But understand that New Orleans and that entire region, people have an entire culture that's rooted there. People don't want to just up and leave just because and totally just start a new life because they're afraid of a storm, something that, you know, is going to come every year either way. And that's why you have the conversations around infrastructure, making sure that when these things happen, you know, your infrastructure is not compromised. So what we saw with the power, where you have 18 of the transmitters or whatever they're called, all pretty much freaking collapse and just, I'll just say die. And now you have 1.1 million people with no power. You know, things like that, that's a conversation. Conversations around infrastructure, ensuring that when things happen, people will be okay. This is why I like a place like Japan. Me personally, I don't think I could live there because they got too many earthquakes, but their infrastructure is pretty much calibrated to experience that kind of, you know, lifestyle, of that setup where all of their buildings are retrofitted for really huge and strong earthquakes, because Japan sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, and it's a very highly active region where they constantly have quakes over a 6.0 magnitude, where it's almost the norm, where they're at least going to have a handful of them each and every year. But again, infrastructure is there. And I think one of the reasons why this specific region is so neglected is because, again, when you talk about the socioeconomic status of the people that live in that region, a lot of times they're not looked at as people that are worth putting the money into, sadly, because that's how our government operates. So you continue to leave people destitute. You ignore what it is that's needed. I don't understand why the power grid, from what I was reading, the power grid setup is still very like 1980, even though they've created all these new, you know, they've done the construction, they've updated and upgraded everything. They're still using a very dated way of trying to power that entire region. So it's scary that literally in one storm, everything's knocked out. And they're saying these people might not have power for weeks. And again, think about that. This is that entire Gulf region, and it's still summer. So you're talking about heat. People also have no sewage. So again, you can't even flush the toilet in your home if your home is properly working, you know, so there's no sewage, there's no heat. People who may need gas for stoves, all that's done. You know what I mean? So it's a lot, even with food. And that's why I was kind of feeling some kind of way when I saw the articles where the police were like, we're going to make sure our main priority is ensuring that people aren't looting. I say, here we go again. So again, no disrespect to the F that. My thing is this. For a lot of these grocery stores that also now have no power, you might as well give the people the food anyway, especially the stuff that's in the fridges. It's going to go bad. So what is the issue? Like, I think that's the sad part. Even in tragedy, we're so worried about commerce. We're worried about the revenue, that the people, again, are collateral and they're a second thought. You've seen that even in the era of COVID, where it's okay, well, whatever happens to the people happens to the people, but we got to get the ball rolling, get this money moving. Like, I think that's a terrible way to go and do things. But, you know, side note, what I find interesting, and I'm wondering how long they're going to keep doing this, but why is it that every time there's a storm, they always put the news anchors out there right in the middle of the storm? Like, I know Al Roker got pissed off because people were saying, you know, they were coming for him. Like, why do you keep putting this man out here? You know, he's getting older. He's a little bit sick and everything. And y'all keep dropping him off in there, and he's getting tossed around in the storm. So he felt some kind of way. But it's interesting that they always, I don't know. I was watching, I don't know what network it was, but I was watching, you know, some of the coverage of the storm. And so there's like, they were in the French Quarter. There's like the news anchor standing there, and, you know, they're standing and posting. And then at the same time, there's literally somebody on the balcony in one of those buildings just walking across. I'm like, see, y'all are doing the dramatics and giving everything like a hot mess. So I don't know. Let me read my little comments here. By the way, I don't like going live on Tuesdays. This is my least favorite day to go live, but it's okay. We'll make it work. I prefer Thursdays, but I'm really busy on Thursday right now. Let's see. Where's my glasses? I'm like blind for real, y'all. I can't see anymore. Oh, Andre said, I'm in Jackson. Thankful that didn't get as bad here as it did for Katrina. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Like, this storm was I think they said it was the third most powerful storm to ever even hit that area, or I think even just hit the country. Fortunately, it was a smaller storm. So that's one of the, I guess, benefits. But again, we haven't even really seen the estimates when it comes to damage and sadly the deaths that are going to come, which kind of sucks. What up, Mary Sweetness? By the way, for those who use Station Head, Mary Sweetness has a show that comes on every morning at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Her show, I think it's Stacks Radio, Mary Sweetness. So definitely check her out. She's real dope. And she also has a YouTube channel as well. I think it's by the same name. Mary, just put it in the chat for people. Don Worthy said the Red Cross has problems when the victims are, yeah, exactly. Anytime somebody look like one of us, Red Cross don't be working right. But let it be them fires on the West Coast. They be having everything aligned. Thank you, Alex Bella. Exactly. When you're from a low income background, it makes it more difficult to evacuate. That's one of the things I don't think people understand. It's not that easy to just up and go, especially when you're trying to figure out where you're going, where you're staying, what are you doing for food. If you have more than one person with you, like if you have a large, family or anybody that's disabled, like you have to consider all of that. Thank you. Somebody donated. Oh, Sexy Alley Cat. Thank you. Appreciate it. Words cannot express how much I love this channel. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, Alley Cat. Where was I at? Let me see. Shanti said, I'm in Mobile, Alabama. Got a bunch of rain and strong winds. We call it hurricane season. Fortunately, I haven't really been through too many hurricanes. I think I've only been through 3, and they were all, by the time they hit here, they're like category 1. And then DC is so far inland, you don't really have to worry about the surge and stuff, but you do have to worry about tornadoes. I think we're on tornado watch or warning today and tomorrow because of the remnants from the storm. Let's see. What up, Latoya? Somebody, Freddie said, why do the mountain in the background on his wall look like a person laying down on his back, face up at the lake? Oh, maybe I'm blind. Oh, okay. I can see it. Yeah, that's like okay, with the nose. All right. Okay, I see it. All right, we're gonna move on in a second. I'm just trying to do a better job of paying attention to the chat. Oh, Val, that's a good point. Modernity has made us impractical about when nature takes over. Society acts like things can proceed as normal, and evacuation on demand assumes privilege and resources not affordable to most. Exactly. And I think that's one of the things happening in society as well. There's such an urge to always get back to normal no matter what's happening. That's why you're seeing the worst in people in everything. Like, think about even looking at like these school board meetings and these parents, the conversations around the mask mandates. And it's so funny that, especially with like a lot of white Americans, for some reason, anytime people get disenfranchised in that collective, they show up to everything with guns. I'm like, why are you showing up to a school board meeting with guns? And this is about mask mandates. My point is, if you don't want your children to wear the mask, then homeschool your children. All right. Because at the end of the day, like for the people who have to work with kids and work in large collectives and large bodies of people and everything else like that, people are concerned about their health. I don't care what your viewpoints on COVID are. At the end of the day, there are still so many unanswered questions around this entire virus and pandemic. And there's so many things that people are still learning and the science continues to change. So if people want to take extra precautions to ensure that until we really understand what's happening, they're trying to be as safe as possible, why are you giving them a hard time about that, especially teachers? You know what I mean? It's already bad enough. Most teachers have classrooms that are overcrowded, overpopulated. A lot of these schools have very crappy ventilation. I just saw the article about what's happening in Baltimore, and they still don't have AC. And mind you, that was an issue that was happening years ago. I remember the issues. I think we did a video about it where you had some of the schools where there was no heat. You got kids in there wearing 2 and 3 coats and bringing a blanket to class. And so this is the reality for a lot of people. So with all that schools already got to deal with, why are you showing up to the board meeting with a gun? You don't even help your kids with your homework, please. And I'm saying that as somebody who works in the after school realm. I recognize there's a lot of parents that don't do crap for their kids, but then they want to show up and make everything political. And then at the end of the day, your kids are collateral to your stupid decisions. Like, foolery. That's all I'm gonna say about COVID today, because COVID's giving me a headache. I'm so sick of talking about it because you just see the stupidity in people. Everybody, I think sometimes you got enough people that watch too many movies already. Everybody wants to latch onto every conspiracy, every argument. And again, like I said, I think a few in the news episodes ago, my question is, well, what's the solution? Because it doesn't matter what happens. Somebody always got something to be mad about. And all of a sudden it comes to y'all still sleep. Y'all need to wake up. All right, well, I'm up. Tell me what I need to know. And then again, there's no range in the conversation. You have nothing left. You go and you give me a link to some random Instagram post you found. I don't have the energy for it. I didn't mean to go on my little soapbox, but I'm over it. Especially like working in the field that I work in. I have to be around so many people all the time, and the stupidity that exists right now. And especially since it's like, people that are literally like either dead now or like terribly sick. I'm like, come on now. All right. Anyway. Oh, this is a good little comment. Nina Boo Sexy Sanchez said, Afghans got them weapons and Black Hawk Soda days building up to 9/11 are going to be real interesting. So I guess I can jump into Afghanistan real quick. I don't even think I wrote no notes on that. I'm going to go from the top of the dome on this one. Like I said in the last video, one, we should never been there to begin with. But I feel like what we continue to do is we continue to set up what you call that vacuum, where there's always going to be an environment for something else to take place, where we're going to find ourselves right back over there in a matter of years or months for something unrelated that will go and extend us into another war. Because you got to think now, with Afghanistan being Iraq being Iraq, all these defense contracting companies that make these hundreds and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. Thank you, whoever just gave me that. Sorry, this thing is so latent. Thank you, Esmont. Said quit your day job, come to YouTube full time. Man, you know how many videos I got to make to pay this rent off full time working YouTube, man? Y'all get it in the news every day. But no, going back to my point, like all these defense contracting companies, they have made billions when it comes to arms sales and everything else. And you're talking Boeing. A third of Boeing's revenue comes from arms sales and defense contracting. Booz Allen Hamilton, Northrop Grumman, Base Systems, I want to say Raytheon, General Dynamics, Galaxy Scientific, all these different companies have made so much money from that. They got to find a way to continue to keep that revenue. I'm not trying to say that we're going to go and jump into a war to ensure that people continue to get rich, but a lot of folks got very wealthy from the last two wars that we were in. Very wealthy. Sadly, our economy pretty much, I think, was collateral for the middle class and for working class Americans, but the wealthy got rich off of this. But again, we should have never been there. And again, you keep seeing that same pattern. Like one of the main things they say in regards to why ISIS became ISIS is we left all the weapons over there. We were like, all right, we out, let's go. And then you leave the weapons and they always say, oh, well, don't worry. We dismantled them. Nobody will be able to use them. They're all damaged. And I'm like, listen, y'all assume that the people over there are stupid. They know how to do everything we can do. Just because they speak a different language and maybe they dress a little differently and the culture is a little different, don't think they don't do the same things we do. All right. And so again, even with the weapons over here, all those weapons are left over there. They're saying, don't worry. We've dismantled everything. They won't be able to use it. Our technology is just so exceptional because this is the American way. They won't even know how to use this stuff. And I'm like, all right. Listen, secondly, you got a bunch of Americans who are already crazy and already hate the country anyway. It's nothing for some of them folks to go on the internet and share information on how to do things. You can probably go on YouTube and figure out how to use half that stuff. But with Afghanistan, we should have never gone there. And it sucks because you've uprooted the lives of so many people. And when you look at how much money we spent over there, I'm like, you realize what that money could have done over here on this side? What it could have done for the people? 2 wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, and that doesn't even include all the other operations and missions we go on. And I think the beef that I've always had, we're always told that we go into these places because we're fighting to protect our freedom. And it's like, well, every time I go and I look at these places we're going after, whether it be Panama in the 70s or Argentina or Chile or Bosnia or Yugoslavia, like none of these had anything to do with our actual freedom. I will say there have been some instances where, yes, there were moments where there was a group of people that were like, listen, we need some help. But the other issue is, yeah, we went over to help, but it's because there's some kind of U.S. interest that was in there. There's something that we can get that's tangible. Because if that's the case, and I'm not advocating for the U.S. to start going to more countries and populations with these kind of folks, but it's noticeable that those are the demographics that seem to be ignored when they need help all the time. You watched the 2 million in Rwanda get killed, right? And it was like we came in last minute. You know what I mean? Things that were happening with Somalia, we decided to vilify them. Like even with the conversation around the whole idea of pirates, and when you see movies like Black Hawk Down and all those different things, or what's the movie? It just won an Oscar some years back, but it's about the Somali pirates that went and took over. And I'm like, if you look at the history and what actually happened in that region, one, that was a region that was already overfished because you had American and European corporations going and just pretty much snatching up all the resources that the people had. And so the initial residents of that area started patrolling their waters because that was their way of life. When you live in certain countries where the infrastructure is not where it needs to be, or there's no industry, or there's trade embargoes, or there's politics that go into why certain countries have a hard time trading around the world, because again, depending on who's in power and who's calling the shots, you have a lot of countries that cannot really do any business, especially when it comes to international commerce. And so you have these people going and literally patrolling their waters saying, you can't keep coming in here and taking what's ours. And so, yes, they had to use violence or to use whatever they needed to use to protect the waters. The next thing you know, it's a Hollywood movie, and we change the narrative and make it look like the people who are defending the waters by their country, they're all terrorists. Like, that's how we keep doing things. And so it's just I'm over it sometimes. Like I have such an attitude about everything in life. I have to constantly check out. Like it's been really hard to even do like the in the newses because I don't even watch the news anymore. Like I'll do 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes a day, and that's it. Because there was a time in life where I would wake up and the news was on. I'd get home from work and the news was on, and then before I go to bed, I have the news on before I would get to sleep. And I was like, you know what? Foolery. I'm tired. All right. Let me read some comments. But no, with Afghanistan, we'll kind of see what happens. I'm sure there'll be another story about something else. It's jacked up because there's a lot of people they still left over there, you know, which I think is messed up. Like I said, my main focus, I'm not going to lie, I die on the hill for me and mine, but I still don't want to stand by and watch other people just become collateral to really bad policy. I don't want to see anybody suffer. And I think that's effed up that you had all those people literally risk their lives for the last 20 years helping this country to do what it is that they do, and then you leave half of them destitute. And then y'all gonna go up there and lie. Because I think Biden was on TV today talking about how successful everything was. I was like, all right, if you say so. You know, everybody that wanted to get out got out. Okay, if you say so. Where are we at? DB, no, you're not too late. I just started not too long ago. Calvin, you're my favorite millennial. I love you so much. How y'all know I'm a millennial? I might be Gen Z, y'all. I'm 23. No, look, my music age is 24. I'm gonna start lying about my age for my next project. You know, I'm 24. Sorry if I'm missing your comments, guys. I'm just trying to catch up because I was rambling. Let's see. Thank you, Nathan. Well, it's our new reality. They need to accept it until it changes. That's kind of what happens when you have a pandemic or anything happening globally. It's just your new normal changes. And I think because people are so pressed to want to get to what's familiar and what's comfortable, people are willing to get to it by any means necessary at the expense of anybody, which I think is a very selfish way to do things. It didn't have to get this bad. But again, everybody were such know-it-alls and everybody wanted to do whatever they did. And as a country, I don't think we were ever on the same page, even with each state government doing their own thing. So here we are. And it's not saying that you needed the federal government to come down and come to everybody at gunpoint and tell you to stay in the house. But it's like when you have people that politicize a global pandemic and center it around the left and the right and the radical left and the radical right and the Democrats and the Republicans and conservatives and the left and the liberal, like y'all just all in the way, just looking stupid. Just looking stupid all around, all across the board, the stupidity that exists. Oh, somebody said a Sam Cooke biopic would be the bomb. Like I said a few videos ago, I don't think Sam Cooke gets his props like he should. So I prefer a documentary though. I like biopics, but I really like documentaries as of late. Like, because you can really get the real scoop, especially when you have different people that were in the people's lives that can really talk about whatever happened. What up, Ray? Oh yeah, Raywin, y'all. It was his birthday the other day. Happy birthday. I think he said what, 49? August 22nd. Congrats to you, Raywin. Happy birthday. Okay, I'm trying to scroll through these comments. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to keep it going. Oh yeah, 20th anniversary of 9/11. Even with 9/11, to be no disrespect, I don't even want to hear too much about 9/11 because based on how this country responded in the last 2 years with everything else happening and the fact that you got 600,000 people dead, nobody cares. No disrespect to the 3,000 that died, but the energy is just all over the place. That's all I'm gonna say. Energy is all over the place. People can't figure out what it is they want to be concerned about because it's like once you feel inconvenienced, then it's the hell with everything. Man. All right. And then, okay, somebody said we intentionally trained them and left the weapons. And that's what I don't get either. I'm like, what kind of training was y'all doing for 20 years? And then the Taliban took over in like 2 days. That was some kind of nonsense. What training was y'all doing? No disrespect to those who were over there, but dang. Like, I thought y'all had this together. But okay. All right. Oh, that's a good question. Eugene Johnson, did you watch the Woodstock 99 doc? I did. Y'all check that out. I just want to say people are nasty. So I remember Woodstock 99 because it was the summer of 99 is when I moved back to America. And Woodstock, I think, was like a few weeks after I got back to America. And it was a big deal on the news because of the riots and everything that happened. But I remember constantly seeing the people throwing the mud, just throwing the mud and everything. And I thought that was mud. It was not mud. It was not mud at all. It was all the waste from the honey buckets and the porta pot. I was like, oh, y'all are nasty. And I mean, you know, these white folks, and they just laying all in there and rolling. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting little documentary. Very interesting. Definitely check it out. It was a good watch, but that was a mess. I was like, what kind of nonsense? Oh, that was so nasty. But it just kind of shows that people are like crazy. That was nasty. So gross. All right. Somebody said, do I still mask up? I do, unless I'm like outdoors and away from people. But yeah, I still wear mine right now. And like DC's cases are starting to go up because this is the first, all of the colleges are back. Like DC hasn't really had COVID too bad at all. But, you know, the colleges were all evacuated and, you know, they didn't have, you know, on campus learning or in campus learning, you know, pretty much last year. This time, all the campuses are open. So you're going to kind of see that surge. So, yeah. All right. We're going to keep it moving. All right. Dang. All right. I got to get to my next segment. I'm over here still talking about this. All right. I'm going to keep moving. All right. Oh, this would be real quick because I'm a kind of y'all know I'm like a history dork. I love Jeopardy. And so I was reading that the Mike Richards guy they got rid of. Mike Richards was the executive producer. He had been in Jeopardy for about 2 years. He's also the executive producer at Wheel of Fortune, but they actually just fired him. If you remember, you had Alex Trebek passed on, right? He passed on from the cancer. And then they went through the whole process of trying to bring in, you know, a new host. And they had all these different celebrity hosts come in and they were going to have the competition to find a new host. A lot of people were pushing for LeVar Burton. If you remember LeVar Burton, I remember him from Reading Rainbow. Some people remember him from Star Trek. Some people remember him from Roots. But, you know, I was a Reading Rainbow kid, all right? Shaka Khan singing the hook. But it was interesting because it was announced maybe 2 weeks ago that Richards would just go ahead and he was going to take over, which I found interesting because it was like, why would you lead this whole campaign to find a host if you were just going to do it yourself? And then people felt some kind of way because it was like Alex Trebek's dying wish was to have this woman, Laura Coates, actually replace him. He even said it on video. This is the person that I like. I think she'd be great. She's an attorney, this black woman. And of course, you know, they ain't about to have no black person hosting Jeopardy because in America, Jeopardy is pretty much the epitome of intelligence. And you don't want a black face leading that conversation. So, you know, she was about to get it. Same thing with LeVar Burton. That's why they got both of them out of there, sadly. But no, they got rid of Mark Richards based on something he said on some podcasts he used to host, some offensive little statements he said. And so they got him out of there. So now, you know, it's all about PR and damage control, but we'll see how it goes. Y'all know, if like you follow my Instagram, y'all know I'll be like watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy all the time and cussing out the camera. I don't know. Wheel of Fortune kind of gets on my nerves though, because sometimes the puzzles don't be making no sense. You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, the thing is a phrase. And I literally watched a few weeks ago and the phrase, because sometimes they'll mix up different genres and put it in the thing. And I watched this white woman go and solve the puzzle. She monkeying around at the gas station. I was like, what? And yeah, she won like, I forgot how much she won. I was like, what a stupid puzzle, but okay. God, stupid puzzle, but all right. Anyway, the other thing I did want to cover, damn, I got a bunch of stuff in here. Let me jump to Antoine Gilmore really quick. So I don't know if everybody, I don't even know if it made national news like that, but here in DC, there was a police shooting, Antwan Gilmore, where the police pretty much killed a man in his car. So, and what's crazy is that mess happened in my neighborhood. Like I got up and there's always flashing lights in my neighborhood all the time, but you know, so it's nothing. I got up at like 3 or 4 in the morning just to go to the bathroom and I saw all the flashing lights, but it's just normal where I live. So, you know, I went on back to sleep. And then, you know, when I got on and looked at the news and like, oh, there was a big shooting on, you know, this street. I'm like, what? And literally when I looked out, you could still see the car that was there. So long story short, he was in the car asleep. They're saying he was asleep at the wheel. Somebody called and then the police came and they were trying to say that they knocked on the window and they were, you know, of course they say, oh, well, he has a gun. He had a gun in his waistband. Next thing you know, he's shot. There's like 10 rounds shot into his car. And they kept trying to, you know, hound down on the fact that, yeah, he had a gun that was, I guess, unregistered. But at the end of the day, I don't want to hear any conversations about any of that, just especially when we just saw what happened at the Capitol like a week ago with the bomber that had pulled up and he made it out alive just fine when he was threatening to blow up everything because he was pissed about the direction the country was headed in. But with the Antwan Gilmore, from what it seems like, I don't know if maybe he was drunk, but it seems like he fell asleep at the wheel. But the point that I have is, you know, his car was sitting idle. I understand that there's a danger to being asleep at the wheel. However, if you walk up on somebody's car who was sleeping and you know, they knock on the window, he didn't wake up the first time. Because if you see the video, he has like, he wakes up and he's given literally 2 seconds to comply. And then he kind of hits the gas and they start shooting. But, you know, think about if you get startled and you're awakened last minute. You know what I mean? A lot of times, sometimes it takes you a few seconds for everything to process. Like, I don't know if y'all are like me. Sometimes I'll take a nap and it's only supposed to be like a 30-minute nap. It ends up being like 3 hours. You wake up like, yo, what's going on? What's going on? It's 3 a.m. Oh, shoot, I'm going to go on back to bed or something. But, you know, you can't show up in somebody's face. And, you know, they first open their eyes and the first thing they see is a bunch of guns pointed to them. I'll probably hit the gas too. And then again, if he was sleeping, he might not have even realized that the car was still on. It might have taken him a minute to understand what's happening. And so he might have just taken his foot off the brake, and that's why the car moved. And then they just start shooting. But of course, they killed him. But DC police already said it's against policy to fire into a moving vehicle. DC also has a no chase policy. And so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that all turns out. But I definitely see a lawsuit in that one coming, just because, again, so quick to fire. And again, the man was sleeping. And just because he had a gun in the waistband, it wasn't in his hand. And again, I don't even want to have the conversation around guns, because we already know white people get to carry guns all day. And it is what it is. Nothing happens. And so now you have a man that's asleep. He has a gun in the waistband. And y'all are trying to say, oh, that's the reason why we had to shoot him. He never reached for it, ever. One hand was on the steering wheel. One hand was, I think they said, was on the little gear shift just sitting there because he was asleep. So it's kind of like y'all keep trying to paint a scenario. So even the video that was released, even the video, you see that there's not even enough time to comprehend what happened because they were so quick to start shooting. It's just like, y'all be trying it. Anyway, let me read the comments real quick. You ready? What was that on here? Wait, I'm still scrolling. I'm trying to catch up. All right. Oh, I forgot I didn't stop after the reading around the Jeopardy piece. Laura Coates should be up next. That's about Jeopardy. You know, honestly, I don't even want LeVar Burton or Laura Coates over Jeopardy, because it's like y'all had an opportunity, y'all burned it. So no, don't give them a sympathy show now. Don't worry about it. Y'all missed out on it. So never mind. Too bad. Laura Coates would have been great. FF8 now said, I think they should retire the show. If they aren't going to let The Wish Be Honored, then let Laura host it. Or, you know, I don't mind them just showing reruns. Like, I'll sit and watch the old reruns. You know, it'll be interesting to see how much history has changed since those first episodes. Yeah, I'm totally down for that. Yeah, I don't know if I want them to cancel it. It's just a staple. But yeah, so just show the reruns. Somebody said, you be reading, folks. I'm pretty low key today. I ain't even fired nobody up yet. I don't think. I might in this next segment, depending on how it go. Let's see. All right, let me get past the Jeopardy section. Let me keep going. Somebody said I'm about to talk about Sha'Carri. Oh, you know, I don't think I ever talked about her. I ain't got nothing to say. Best wishes. Good luck. That's all I got. It was interesting though to see. I'll say Roland Martin didn't need to jump in that conversation. I ain't like that. Like with Sha'Carri's situation, I do think there's still a chance for her to still have a viable career in track and field. But it's interesting that I think you can have the conversation about humility, but I feel like there's a double standard depending on who's the face of that conversation. And it was interesting. Like she got a lot going on. She do, because I'd be cracking up. But I'm not gonna lie, it was the clip where she was doing the interview after she had just lost the race, and then you saw the other girls walking past laughing. I was like, dang. For me, how I looked at it, I looked at all of that as kind of like, you know how, like, depending on where you grow up, if the whole neighborhood is kind of close and somebody in the neighborhood kind of does something kind of silly, you guys kind of fry them up, but it's with love. The energy kind of shifted to something terrible. But what I found interesting, the whole bit with Roland Martin, I was not feeling, because it was kind of like the girl already lost. She already got last place. Why are you kicking the girl when she's down? And then you make this whole speech about humility. And no disrespect, Roland Martin is not a humble person. So I'm like, you're the last person, sir, to ever talk about humility, all that ego you got, especially. And I think the beef I have with him, and probably even Mark Lamont Hill, both of them do this on their show where there's certain conversations that we've been having for decades and decades, especially when you have like the conversation around reparations. At this point, there's no point in having a debate about whether or not reparations should be a thing. We're past that debate. It's already widely there. The numbers are there. The research is there. There's all kind of movements that are out there. This has been a conversation for the last 30 years, and it's definitely been reignited in the last 5. And so when I look at some of these people that have these shows, it's like, why do you still bring people on your shows to deflect from that conversation? Why do you bring people who, one, don't have the range to even have that conversation, or are not well studied, or one, don't even have a care about? Why are you bringing certain people on your platform to still debate and beat a dead horse about something we've been talking about for 30 years? We're past that. The numbers are already there. It's evident, and it shows, when you're talking about generational wealth, when you're talking about housing discrimination, literally any and everything in regards to the plight of Black Americans in this country, the numbers are there, the research is there. So the beef that I have with them is they constantly bring other people on their show to try to belittle and paint them to be stupid because, they may be against something. And it's like, that conversation got nowhere. I understand why those people needed to be dragged, but they're already late to the conversation. You dragging them with a 1995 conversation that should have been done with already. We moved on. People are now at the point where the conversation should be, how do you distribute it? How do you even make it a thing? Who gets what? How does it? That's the conversation now. So it's kind of like when they go and they bring like white nationalists and white supremacists on their shows. For what? Why? Like that's one thing. Like, I don't debate with people that I don't have the energy for. Like, I'm going to focus on what's actually important. Like, if you follow me on Twitter, I don't even argue on Twitter. Folks can say whatever they want. I keep it moving. I'm not arguing on the internet with people that if I already don't value their opinion. So it's kind of like, nah, I ain't doing it. But no, I thought that was kind of messed up that he couldn't wait to run and hound down on the girl. But I don't know. I hope she, good luck. That's all I got. But yeah. I ain't like the way some of y'all fried the girl up. Like, she got a lot going on. Just let her have her moment. She's also still really young too. That's just me trying to see the good in everybody. But dang. Anyway, moving on. Jalil Mason, Queen of Pop Mess. Can we? Oh God, don't get me started on that foolery. I think I wrote it in here. Do I want to talk about that now? I'm gonna come back to that because dang man, that was irritating. I'll drag a few people in that in a second. Oh, by the way, I talked about it on the In the News. That Rick James documentary comes out on Showtime Friday, so make sure y'all watch because I'm definitely gonna talk about it when I get back in town the following week. All right, it's called, I think, Bitchin' the Fury and Times of Rick James, something like that. It's on Showtime, but for those of you who are music heads, I'm sure that's going to be a really fun watch. So definitely check that out. I did want to cover this really quick. And it's more so a larger conversation about something that's happening nationally. It's not even specific to this little town. But I don't know if you saw the story from a few days ago coming out of, I think it's Waukesha, something like that. In Wisconsin. But one of the things that they did in the school district when COVID first hit is they created an automatic free lunch program where automatically every family had access to free lunch in the school district, right? And so they recently, they had to reverse the decision because they got so much backlash, but they had voted to opt out of that program and cancel the program. So just some of the dynamics. When I said it was like free lunch, normally when you think of a free lunch program, is families that apply or families that qualify, meaning there's a certain threshold of income that they don't meet, or maybe they have a large household. When you're talking about capita per household and how many's in the household and everything like that, people qualify for free or reduced lunch. And so their reasoning for canceling the program was that, compared to summer of 2020, they had 40% less students, taking the meals. And then they were also saying that, I tried to write down what I wrote in here. I guess that was the main thing. And then they're also saying like the kids weren't really eating the food, so they decided to pull out of the program. So here's the only concern I have with something like that. I don't think we have this conversation enough, but even the conversations, because pretty much what the school is doing now is they're just going back to how things were. So it now means you can get free or reduced lunch, but you have to qualify for it. One of the conversations that needs to be had is there's a lot of people who are just above the threshold to qualify for programs like that. And so they don't qualify for a free or reduced lunch. And they got, however many kids. And then those families end up being worse off than, had they been able to actually get help. And so I think when you have those kind of problems, because when they said well, it dropped by 40%. You have to ask, well, who's the 40% that are no longer using it? Those tend to be people who are already able to get on their feet, or economically they're in a better spot where, yeah, it's fine. But cutting that program makes that lowest denominator, as far as those who are in a certain bubble or tax bracket, they end up becoming the people who still suffer under that system. And that's one of the things we run into when you have thresholds with a lot of programs. I talked about this before, but even when you talk about benefits that come from the state, if you have a child that's disabled or mentally disabled, or has any kind of issue where the state is paying you money, even in that realm, when it comes to what kind of assistance that you can get, the conversation that keeps taking place, or the issue you keep seeing, is people try and better themselves. I don't know, say there's a program, you make under 30,000 a year, so you qualify for this certain program. People try and better themselves, and they get a new job, and now they finally get a raise. So instead of making 30,000, I don't know, they make 33, but the threshold for the program was 31. And so now all of a sudden they're yanked 100% out of whatever program exists. And now, they have the burden of paying for everything in full. And now they're worse off than when they try to do better for themselves and get a job that paid more. Like, that's one of the things that keeps happening in the workforce. That happens with benefits and all kinds of things. And so even with the same conversation around the free and reduced lunch, that's one of the issues. And if you want to talk about why the kids are throwing the food away, let's be honest. No disrespect, as somebody who works in the after school realm, and I see the kind of meals these kids get, you can't even have the conversation about beggars can't be choosers and stuff like that, because some of the stuff they give these kids is just, it's terrible. So I understand why the kids probably are throwing it out. A lot of times these programs are, it's through the USDA, and a lot of times the food vendors are giving people food that was already getting ready to be thrown out anyway. And so you get bad produce, you get stuff that's half packaged and half thrown together, and it's not even really a great portion. And then again, conversations around variety. I think this country treats people that don't have money just absolutely terrible. And they try to create a space where it makes it seem like it's your fault that you're poor. So because you're poor, because you don't have everything, we're going to ensure that even when we help you, you're going to get the lowest quality of help because it's on you. Pull yourself up by the bootstrap. That's some BS. And because I've seen that with just some of the food banks and stuff. Good kudos to those who are trying to help others, but like, it's interesting how many stipulations exist in some of these programs. And so I just think it sucks, because now you have some families that did benefit from that program, but because the wealthier families were able to pull out of the program, those who did not have that same luck have to now be collateral. And so I think that sucks. It is what it is, though. Sadly, it's America. Sounds like our soundtrack. Where are we at here? Somebody said, don't argue with the pixels. I certainly don't. I ain't about to argue with nobody on no Twitter. Somebody said you vibing too high to be arguing with folks. Plus, I don't have to argue too much, because when I feel some kind of way, I'll just put it on YouTube. I'm like, let me make a video. Let me tell y'all something. You tried it. So yeah, I don't have to really do too much arguing. Somebody said Rick James. Somebody said I canceled my Showtime subscription. Yo, I'm about to cancel. What do I have left? I only have Showtime left. Showtime and Epix. I canceled HBO and Stars through my cable, because it was cheaper to just get it through the freaking HBO Max and all that. Even though that HBO Max interface, they got to change that thing, man. That thing, you can't ever fast forward or rewind. You just got to sit and watch the thing. It reminds me of, if you ever heard my podcast, I talked about the very first car I had. My dad had bought me a 1989 Ford Festiva, Ford Fiesta, I forgot which one. But the car had been through a lot, y'all. It was a lot going on with the car. My dad bought it from the neighbor for like a few $100s. It had gotten an accident with like the city bus or the school bus, so the right side was already all messed up. The left side, the door couldn't close properly, and so the light that was on the top would always drain the battery, because you know how the car light stays on. And this was a throwback car, so you couldn't change the switch to turn the light off. And there was no weather strip on the window, so if it rained, like the water came on the side and the whole side of the car would be all mildewed. But the worst part was, like, I couldn't change the music. There was this Keith Sweat cassette tape that was locked inside the tape player, and it was the Keith Sweat Keep It Coming album. And then you couldn't even change the music. So you had to just listen to that album, and you couldn't even flip the tape. You only could listen to, I think, side B. And all the good songs be on side A. So it just reminded me of that. I was like, dang. Yeah, so with HBO Max, it's like you just got to watch it all the way through. Sit down and pay attention. Oh, somebody said, how do I feel about Cam Newton? I was going to address that. Y'all know I don't follow the NFL anymore, but I did see the comments that, what's his name? Scott Zolak made, saying, well, the reason Cam isn't good anymore is the rap music. Y'all already know that's coded language. Yeah, like, again, just like I said in, I think, the last 2 or 3 In the News episodes, people already think they own black athletes and own what it is that they do. And now all of a sudden we want to have a conversation about what athletes are allowed to listen to and how somehow rap music affects how they play a sport. I think black athletes need to kind of get a backbone and start dragging some of these people that are in charge, or either boycott or strike. Because the thing is you putting your body on the line to make a whole bunch of people rich. It's you that's going to come out of all of this with CTE and bad knees and a jacked up back and a slip disc and all kind of things going on, and mental issues. Because you see a lot of the people that retire out of the NFL, a lot of them kill themselves. Even if it's not the NFL, a lot of college athletes that played football never quite made it to the NFL, but still had all the neurological issues and everything else happening. A lot of them killed themselves as well. And then you see them leave a note and say, please use my brain for research because I don't feel right. And so y'all are going through all of that, and y'all let these old shriveled up white men drag y'all like that and literally tell y'all what it is you're not allowed to do and what you can't do. And then the fans do the same thing as well. Absolutely not. So that's some coded language. As far as Cam Newton, I haven't followed to even pay attention to what's happening with him. I honestly don't know. I don't follow the NFL right now, but no, these athletes, I think they need to recognize the kind of power that they have in number. But because we live in a very individualistic society, we're really in a whole movement of get the bag, get the bag, secure the bag, get the bag. And so it's at any expense by any means necessary. And so that idea of collective thinking is not really a thing. And even sadly, you even see it with people who claim to be activists and everything else. Even some of them, you know, they're all down and in the movement. And as soon as the money start coming in, they disappear. They change the narrative. Well, we need to all come together in love. No, we can get to the love, but let's fix the problem first. You know what I mean? And so sadly, the athletes, they're not on the same page. So they're going to continue to get exploited because I think a lot of them aren't getting paid what they need to be paid. And then again, the disrespect that exists, even the fact that athletes are forced to do a press conference after they lose a game. Like, you can, if I just lost some championship that I've been working all season for, can you at least let me get one day to process the fact that I lost before you put me in a press kit room and I got to sit in front of a bunch of cameras and then they say, you didn't quite catch that last throw. How did it feel knowing that, you know, you missed that catch on the anniversary of your mother's death? I'm like, excuse me? So, no, that ain't how this works. Blame it on the rap music. Okay, first of all, then that means y'all need, so I'm just going to say we already know who the largest consumers of rap music are, so y'all tried it. Man, we just be getting blamed for everything all the time. They just got smoke for us all day. Just be waking up catching strays, something we done did wrong. Weezy Jefferson said even the peanuts were nasty in school. School lunch wasn't too bad when I was at, you know, we had that little pizza square. It wasn't bad then. I probably wouldn't eat it now. We had the little pizza square. I keep seeing that meme where it's like the pizza square, like that little popsicle thing it's like a pop. It was grape and orange. It was only in 2 flavors. And sometimes you had red on a good day. We had those, that little burrito thing. I remember all those, but I'll tell you what lunch was nasty. When I lived in Italy, the school lunch was nasty because it wasn't like we were getting Italian cuisine. No, it was like still American stuff being shipped in. And our pizza used to be this really hard piece of bread with just like some cheese melted on the top and a hint of tomato sauce. That crap used to be so nasty because they would bake it too hard and the bread would be all crunchy. I was like, this is nasty. This ain't supposed to be like a pizza bagel bite. It's supposed to be pizza. What is this? Anyway, let me keep going. Somebody said your podcast is hilarious and relatable. Your family and experiences remind me so much of my own. My family be side-eyeing me like, if you don't stop telling all these stories. But no, the podcast is fun when I actually can get it done. But no, I like the podcast because I feel like it shows a lighter side. The only thing I don't like with like the YouTube side is sometimes because we cover so many heavy topics a lot of times, I think sometimes people assume that I'm just pissed off every day. I just wake up mad, ready to fight all day. It's like, no, I'm a happy person. Like I'm usually in a good space until we start having these conversations. But somebody has to have them. All right. I'm going to keep going. All right, Randy, shout out to Barbados. What's up? That's my was said Marcus laughing at you doing your driving lessons. That's actually, I think, my favorite episode of the podcast. It's called Pull Over So I Can Hit You. That's my favorite one. It's also on the YouTube channel as well. Somebody said, oh, really? Miss Blow said Cam Newton's still on that I'm not black, I'm OJ vibes. I don't follow him enough. He probably do say some foolery like that. A lot of these athletes, you start getting some money, they act like they ain't black no more. Or they act like, because, I don't know, a lot of people think once you come into money, you can be above systemic racism. oh no, you're still going to play the role that was created for you, even with the wealth that you have. They have no problem shutting you down. What are my thoughts on the Kanye album? I didn't listen. Sorry, Kanye is still on probation with me right now. I'm not checking for Kanye. No disrespect. I'm not there with him. Sorry. Talented, but you know, man, somebody needs to get that man some help. And I think by continuing to constantly give him the attention he gets and the hype and the fact that he can never be held accountable for certain things that he does, I feel like that makes things worse with all that he's already dealing with. You know, I don't wish ill on him or anything like that, but nah, I'm good, Kanye. But I'm sure he'll probably be number one and everything. And somebody was asking me too, they were saying, you know, why is it that, you know, somebody like a Chrisette Michele, because you keep having these conversations about cancel culture, and now you're seeing an argument where people are saying, no, people can't be canceled. And I'm like, I think some people have been. I think Daniel Caesar pretty much got what was coming to him, and I think Chrisette Michele as well. But I think the difference between like a Kanye and Chrisette Michele is Kanye has white fans. His core fan base are white men. You know, he still has, you know, black folks that follow him, but Kanye has a huge white fan base. And so I feel like when you still have that machine behind you, and again, the stuff that he's catching smoke for is rooted in anti-blackness. So of course, white people could care less. You know, white radio programmers and everybody, that doesn't affect them. Yeah, they love to hear the argument that slavery was a choice. Yeah, because that makes them feel less guilty for slavery and everything else that came after it. So, you know, somebody like a Kanye is not going to get canceled unless you piss off white folks. That's why you saw the difference. Like you look at the contrast with what happened with somebody like the Baby. That's white America you pissed off. On top of, again, you're at a festival in which this is not your core fan base. You're at a festival where there's different groups of people represented, and then you say and do whatever you do, and then double down on it, and then do your whole campaign about it. And the lesson I've learned in all of this is sometimes when stuff hits the fan, let time pass. Just shut up and go somewhere and sit down and be quiet for a while. Let the storm blow over. But a lot of these entertainers, they jump right in the storm and stir it up, and they want to prove a point, and they just keep digging themselves into more of a hole. So it's like, that's on y'all. And then right when that happens, then everybody wants to jump on the conversation of, well, this is trying to take down the black man. Yeah, we recognize that there's a system that makes an example out of us. So recognize that while you're playing into that system that you glorified and tried to come up in, understand that that same system will take you down. So yeah, but anyway, they said it was 27 songs. I was like, I'm glad somebody got a long one like that. I don't got to feel bad about releasing my long albums anymore. But mine ain't that long. Mine's just like an hour. Yeah, somebody said Daniel Caesar told us to cancel him. Yeah, Daniel Caesar gave us the directions. I was just following instructions. Did I talk about Candyman yet? I'm so far off my notes because I've been just going off the chat. I did see Candyman. I thought it was all right. The last 30 minutes, I wasn't crazy over. Like, I still prefer you guys at least check it out, at least to support the director, because I think that's the first. Which again, I feel some kind of way about still having first black anything in 2021. It just goes to show that the system is still doing what it's supposed to do. Because man, it sucks. But anyway, with the movie, it was all right. The last 30 minutes kind of turned me off a little bit because I don't know. I mean, it was cool for what it was. It's a movie you watch, and it's not bad, but it's not super excellent. Some people loved it. I don't know if maybe I'm just biased because I remember the first one, but I don't know. It was cool. I'd still say check it out. The acting is good in it. I was entertained, and then the last 30 minutes just went so left field. I was like, huh? Okay, and then it seems like it just kind of ended. I was like, oh, okay. All right, let me get back on my actual notes because I'm so far off of where I wanted to go. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna shift gears here. I'm gonna talk about a few happier things real quick. I just want to make sure I covered everything on these pages before I throw them out. Okay, these are done. Perfect. I'm just put these right on the floor. Clean them up when I'm done. Somebody asked me, did I see the story about the whole, what is it, Bishop Sycamore thing with ESPN, where I didn't pay attention to the full story, but I did find that a little funny. Where pretty much, long story short, you know, ESPN, when they get ready to launch into their, you know, sports season, especially with football, they will highlight a few high school games and show them on a national stage or the national arena. And so I forgot the name of the guy, but he was able to convince some of, and what ESPN does is they go to third-party sources to find out and do the research about what are the big name games in these different regions all across the country that they should highlight. And so the third-party companies, the guy that that they got the smoke for right now, he was able to reach out to the third-party company and say, hey, check out my school, you know, Bishop Sycamore, I think that's what it's called. You know, I think he said he had like 9 top 100 recruits, and these are some D1 whatever recruits and so on and so forth and everything else like that. And so they go against one of the best schools in all of Ohio. I mean, this school here is like some super special academy, just top-notch players. They have this game. I think the score was 58-0, but the other problem is the Bishop Sycamore. I keep wanting to say Bishop Arlington because there's a school out here called that with an okay football team. But no, the players were like 25, 26. These were grown adults and still got blown out of the water by like some 16 and 17-year-olds. That thing had me rolling. But like, if you see the clips, like they didn't even, the school didn't even have like the same, the uniforms weren't even all on the same page. Like, I found that funny. I was like, that man was able to scam all of ESPN and everything. And mind you, the man had warrants out for his arrest and you on TV. Like, what kind of nonsense? Like, okay, that was entertaining. But anyway, moving on. Somebody did ask me my thoughts on the whole Blueprint. You know, we talked about the little BT Encore for a little bit. The show was, I did like the show a lot. And it's funny because, like I said, I feel like everything I said ended up happening to an extent. There was a portion where I stopped liking the show for a little bit because they just fought too much. I like to see creative differences, but when it just gets to fight and you know, F you, I'm like, all right, it's a lot. But no, I thought it was cool. I would like to see them continue that kind of show, maybe do like a guy group or, and I guess maybe even understanding what the age difference is, kind of, maybe you have more people in a group that are kind of in that same age bracket. So maybe you have one with older seasoned acts that are from the 90s and early 2000s. And maybe you have another one with acts that are a little bit more current. That way there's not that generational clash. Like sitting through that was kind of hard to sit through because even with like watching the choreography and stuff, you can't expect somebody like Pam from Total to go and do, you know, these 2021 dance moves because her era, they have a different rhythm. Just like my era has our own rhythm, and then millennials be struggling watching what these TikTok folks be doing. We be like, huh? Wait a minute, y'all are not even moving y'all feet. How y'all do that? So, you know, there's that. Let me take one more chat break, and I'm gonna get on these last 2 subjects, and then I'll kind of chop it up with y'all for a little bit. A. Johnson said, I'm going to support it because it was directed by a Black woman. That's the main reason why I was saying at least support the movie, because you already know how Hollywood does. Anytime there's a Black movie or something that comes out, you got to literally cure cancer before they decide to invest in another one. So every time we have a movie that doesn't do well that they've invested in, they say, that's the reason why we told y'all not to spend no money on that project, because that's how it goes. So it is what it is. R. Kelly, oh God. My sentiments on R. Kelly have not changed. Watch my video. I don't even feel like entertaining that. But with R. Kelly, again, the same conversation about a cycle where, one, too many enablers in the group, because I don't have smoke just for him. I have smoke for all of the people that were in that entire encampment where nobody was holding anybody accountable. Folks were letting stuff slide. There's a lot of parents in the conversation that knew this man had a reputation and still dropped their kids off over there because they, for the chance of fame. You know, there's so many layers that I have smoke for. And with him, like I said, I think in my video, he alone, and this is not to say that if you are a victim of sexual assault or molestation that you're going to go and do it to somebody else, but that happened to him. He never got the help. And you see that that's something he never was quite able to get over, and look what happened. And then the beef that I have is so many people knew that this man had all these different, I would say, victims. And again, I know people are going to try to say, oh, no, we got to protect the Black. Listen, I love us, but the man is on camera. I can't vouch for R. Kelly. I'm sorry. Like, no. And then even in high school, rumors were about, like, I remember the rumors that were out about him, like, going to schools and like, you know, pretty much soliciting both boys and girls. Like, that's nothing new under the sun. Now, I do understand there's a system that loves to make an example out of us all the time. And anytime one of us slip up, they really throw the book. That's the beef that I have. But with R. Kelly, that man needed help. So I feel like he needs some actual help. It sucks. And again, it's kind of like there's a slippery slope in these conversations because you want to protect your collective, but at the same time, it's like, do you protect your collective at the expense of everybody else in the collective? So are we going to ignore all of these other people who are saying this is what happened to them, especially the people who are actually on record, people where there's actual physical evidence? I can't vouch for every single person that made claims because I do think some folks latched on, and I do think some folks are after money, but there's no secret that what happened happened. It is what it is. Again, there's a whole video. You can't deny the video. that's where I'm at. And that's all I'm gonna say on R. Kelly. I don't even like talking about him. It is what it is. That man is guilty. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Great music, you know, definitely a pioneer in R&B. He definitely plays a role into what happened creatively. He definitely contributed so much to music, but sadly his personal life and things and the demons he wasn't able to battle caught up with him, sadly. All right. That's all I got. And I think, again, like with somebody just said, people don't want to say anything about R. Kelly at the expense of the little kids. The big problem is in our community, or that is a big problem in our community. It's just people have got to recognize that, yes, we know that this system is some BS, but in that same realm, understand that if something happens in our community, how, like, I don't know. I'm gonna come back to it. I want to make sure I have my thoughts right before I just start talking. But anyway, again, I just somebody said the P tape is over 2 years old. After that, what are you talking about? He married a child. That too, and then the Aaliyah stuff. Damn, like y'all done forced this little signature. And even with that, it's interesting that when all that happened, Aaliyah caught all the smoke. You know, you got a 15, 16-year-old girl who caught all the smoke. Like that's one of the reasons why, you know, she kind of went into, like, she kind of ghosted for a little bit while she went into prep for One in a Million. It's kind of like rebuilding your whole image. But no, I can't vouch for him. Sorry. Nope. But our community has to do better. Parents have to also do better, because I think there's a lot of people to blame in all this. I feel like I look at it as a whole cycle. I don't look at it as just one person going and doing all the wrong. He did all his wrong, but there's all these people that also enabled as well. And I'm like, no. So even like when I did the initial review, it was only after seeing the first episode. So when I sat through the next 5, I was like, are you serious? So when I saw some of these people on there saying, oh, well, we heard about what he had, but we knew our daughter could sing, I was like, are you serious? Like, y'all not helping. Y'all in the way. Like, damn. Too much stuff. He just got too much evidence against him. Sorry, sir. You figure it out. Anyway. Where am I at? I'm gonna shift gears. I did not even want to talk about him. I just feel like if we had that same energy with everybody in the collective, we'd be all right. But it seems like we only want to coddle and protect certain individuals in the collective, and everybody else is collateral. And I don't be liking that. That'd be messed up. Anyway, going back to Jalil's question, he was asking about the whole, if you've been on like social media, there's been this whole thing. I guess Lizzo had made a list of like pretty much who she saw as like the kings and queens and all the stuff in music. And so she had like Michael listed as king of pop. Janet is the queen of pop. I think Britney was princess of pop and Rihanna was pop princess. And I think Justin Bieber, somebody was in there. But it started this whole firestorm because then you saw the arguments because people are like, why is Janet Jackson in this conversation? Janet Jackson is not the queen of pop, and Madonna fans ran in there ready for smoke. Where do I even want to go on all that? I kind of don't want to say too much because I already have enough of this covered in my So What Happened episode. But I'll say, I feel like a lot of the arguments are already rooted in racism. Let's understand the fact that the music industry is already racist. And then, again, when you talk about the conversations of pop music, what does pop mean? Pop means popular, but popular to who? Usually it means popular to the masses. The masses in this country is white America. And so what you tend to notice when it comes to Black music, especially with successful Black entertainers, their legacies and their work are always kind of cut down in favor of somebody else as far as a white counterpart. And then people start stretching. Now, I will not take away Madonna's accolades. We know she sold more records. We know she had bigger tours. We know she had more hits. But I think if you're going to have this conversation of Janet versus Madonna, then you have to go back to the full context of music history. So this goes back to Janet comes out in 82. Madonna comes out in 83. Remember what was happening in music. We've had this conversation a million times, but the Disco Sucks movement did a number on Black music until almost the mid 80s. All right. And remember, Disco Sucks wasn't even about disco sucking. It was people just pissed off because Black music was having its heyday and people were mad. A lot of punk rockers and rock purists were so irate that Black music was, doing what it did. And then again, disco got so generic where it became a corporate entity, and you had people just putting out any and everything and naming it disco. And then Black entertainers got blamed for it. So, we talked about, the disco duck, and, there were disco cereal commercials and disco this and disco that. And so I've always said there were two kinds of disco. There was kind of like, the Black funk groups that did what they did, and the music was rooted in something and had a rich, heavy presence. And then there was the stuff that was created to get a quick hit and get a quick buck. All right. The quick hit, quick buck music is what pretty much started or spearheaded the idea of people being sick of music and feeling like it wasn't genuine. So let's blame disco. Disco sucks. And sadly, the face of that movement became Black artists. And so you have the disco sucks movement. You have radio stations, because remember, the radio stations started shifting from top 40 radio to now genre-specific radio. And so long story short, anything Black that had some kick to it, some oomph, some funk, was dismissed, would not be played by programmers. You remember they had that big little event where they burned all the records at the stadium. And mind you, half the records they burned weren't even disco records. People showed up burning Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, burning Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, like burning all these projects that weren't even disco projects and everything like that. But the effect that that had was it pretty much created a space where you saw an emergence of what you call the easy listening adult contemporary sound, especially in Black music, for a really long time. That's why Lionel Richie had such a great run in the early 80s, because that was his sound, latching on to the music that's very easy listening. That's why with Michael Jackson's Thriller, the first single they put out, you know, they could have put out PYT, they could have put out Thriller, you know. No, what was the first single? The Girl Is Mine. The nice, easy listening, smooth song, mainly because it was safe enough where they knew, especially because you got Paul McCartney on it, you're going to be able to get white radio stations to play this song. Cool. So getting back to Janet and Madonna. Janet comes out in 82. Janet comes out with an album that pretty much, it was the sixth most successful R&B album of that year. But again, it has that 80s funk with a little bit of Sith. It had some oomph to it, right? And so automatically, one, the project's already ignored. Secondly, it just goes to show where Black music was at that point in time. You have somebody who's the sister of Michael Jackson, who you would have thought that she would have been able to get on just because of his name, because Thriller was getting ready to blow up and everything. But no, totally ignored. The album sells like 200,000 copies initially. Madonna comes out in 83. In 83, when you talk about white entertainers, the white entertainers that would have been out that were really still doing everything, there were no kind of like pop girls. You had like Bette Midler, you had Barbara Streisand still hanging on. But other than that, it was an era of balladeers. You know, the era of the Carly Simons and songwriters and Joni Mitchells, all these people that were still kind of hanging in there. And you had a few rock acts and everything. So like the lady from Blondie, that was kind of the sound. Madonna works with Nile Rodgers. You know, you know him from Chic and pretty much a lot of the popular disco songs from that era, because even though the whole disco sucks movement was a thing, up until about 84, there was that void of music that people could dance to that was really fun. Here comes Madonna. And if you remember, when Madonna comes out, her first 3 or 4 singles are marketed to Black audiences. Why? Because Madonna's music was pretty much, when you look at the musicians and who was behind the scenes, it was Black music. And again, they didn't know how she was going to be received. And so market the stuff. You look at those early singles, they're charting on the R&B charts. But again, programmers are like, oh, we like this sound. It's funky. And so it's able to catch on because, again, the industry, they'll give a shot to a white woman that's giving something funky. But, you know, any kind of other R&B artists of that era at that time making the same kind of music, they weren't going to get that same conversation. I talked about that in the Brandy So It Happened episode, where we talk about the struggle that existed to find like teen pop stars that were Black women, where we talked about like Penny Ford, Stacey Lattisaw, Shanice, what's that girl? Tender Kisses. What's that girl's name? Y'all know who I'm talking about. Tracy Spencer. You know, how there was a struggle for all of them to get on. But anyway, getting to my point, I always look at that and I say, so Madonna pretty much gets to capture a sound that nobody was really doing at that moment in time. Black artists had been doing it for years, but white radio ignored it. Now you have Madonna who comes on and white radio is playing this, and it pretty much mirrors what Black people are already doing. Madonna blows up because white America's been ignoring Black music for the longest. They did it to Prince. That's why 1999 wasn't a hit until years later, until like after Little Red Corvette. You know, that's why Rick James, Super Freak, it's a cult classic in the Black collective, in the Black community. It wasn't a big hit until much later because, again, MTV's also out. They're not playing Black videos until, you know, much later, after CBS threatens to sue and pull all their acts off of MTV if they don't play the Michael Jackson videos. And so Madonna gets a head start with a sound that at this point in time, people are ready to dance again. We've heard nothing but these dry, adult contemporary, easygoing ballads for and simple, safe songs for the road trip, safe enough to play at the library for the last 5 or 6 years. Here comes Madonna. She gets a head start. She's a bit young. The white girls all around the country love her. She blows up and becomes this big thing. And I'm like, wow. And again, she had push behind her. And the other thing is she also kind of unexpectedly blew up. They didn't think she was going to blow up. Borderline comes out. And Borderline is that song that catapults her into like a bigger stratosphere. And so anyway, my point that I was making is it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had somebody like a Janet in 82 got the same push Madonna got later down the line. Like Janet never had that kind of push. Janet always had to work 3 or 4 times as hard to get half the results. And again, it doesn't matter even at the end of the day. If you look at that list of the most successful artists on the Hot 100, even after Janet fell off, because literally she hasn't really had a hit since like 2004 or like really 2001. You know, from 2001 onward, with no real hits, that string that she had between 86 and 2001, she still ranked at number 7 as far as the most successful artist of all time on the Hot 100. So I always say, imagine what could have happened had she not been blacklisted. This is not to take away from Madonna, but it's interesting that people constantly like to kind of tear Janet down all the time at the expense of somebody else, which I think sucks. And again, going back to the conversation around race, you have to also understand, after Diana Ross, and especially after Donna Summer kind of slowed down, there were no black mega pop stars until Whitney Houston. And that's 85 going into 86. And the difference is, of course, Whitney Houston can actually sing. So, you know, Whitney like could sing. So, you know, putting out these great power ballads, because again, this is still the era of the balladeers. Whitney has this amazing voice. And the only reason I'm bringing up Whitney is because I saw some stupid post on Twitter where somebody was like, Madonna paved the way for people like Whitney Houston to shine. No, she didn't. Madonna didn't do nothing. Madonna was Madonna. Whitney opened her mouth and the floodgates opened. We're not going to even give Madonna credit for anything Whitney did. Sorry. But again, Whitney literally becomes that first major black pop star as far as women entertainers. Until, you know, Whitney kind of opens that floodgate, but she comes in the safe route with the nice ballads and her voice can back it. And she has all these hits. And then even like songs like How Will I Know it's pop perfection for the 80s. It's a very poppy song, but the way that she delivers the songs are very soulful. Same with I Want to Dance with Somebody. So you get Whitney, you get Janet, who comes a little bit later down the line in 86, at the top of 86. And, you know, there's the reinvention, but now the industry is more forgiving to black music because now that sound is out. It's popular. People want to dance again. Janet blows up. And then another argument I kept seeing, people kept saying, oh, well, nobody knows who Janet is overseas and blah, 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 blah. Janet always had a huge career overseas as well. Just recognize 2004 happens, it's done. Every time Janet went on tour, she was in Europe selling out the same arenas as everybody else. She was in wherever. But the other thing to recognize when you talk R&B music, like Janet is a pop star or an R&B star that crossed over into pop and has always had the best of both worlds. But when you talk R&B music, and if you want to bring up a place like Europe is not a monolith when it comes to their listening patterns. So some countries have a similar taste in music. So when you talk like UK, France, Germany, they're a little bit more receptive to R&B music, have always been. But there's some places that don't have that same energy. And so there's other places that have, like the Norwegian section of Europe kind of has a different musical taste. Italy and Spain kind of have their own thing. Italy loves the balladeers. They love Whitney Houston in Italy. Love her to death. Eastern Europe doesn't even do R&B at all, literally. You can forget about it. If you're not a balladeer, they just want the power vocals. They don't want the visual entertainers unless you're white. Like, and then same thing when they started saying, oh, they don't know Janet in South America. R&B was never popular in South America for years. If you weren't a powerhouse vocalist and had these monster hits, you just weren't catching on. South America has always been a very hard market to capture musically. That's why labels don't even push artists over there unless they're going to already be singing in Spanish or they're already of that collective. But I don't mean to go on this long rant about that, but like Janet is huge globally. Like she's even bigger in Japan than she was in America. It's just people, and this will come in my So What Happened series, but because there was that erasure that took place after 2004, so many have forgotten what it is that she did. Like it's so, like you got to think from 2004 until a few years ago, you never heard her music in any commercials. You might hear it in the grocery store, but like she was literally erased. You know, the whole conversation of Les Moonves and the band from Radio, all of that. So I found it interesting. Do I consider Janet the queen of pop? For me, the conversation of queen of pop is based around and centered around the idea of whiteness. I think Janet Jackson is Janet Jackson. All right. And at the end of the day, pretty much every single entertainer that has some kind of choreography or does whatever they do, there's some influence that she put there. And there's that. You know, so Madonna can be Madonna. She can have the queen of pop title. I promise you, I don't care. Good for her. Because again, she did what she did. But I think a lot of times when you have these conversations, you have to be honest that black musicians, honestly, have always had to take a backseat to white artists. Look at Whitney Houston. To me, that's one of the greatest in the world. Same with Aretha, vocally. And they still take a backseat to other artists who have sold more records than them, sold out bigger stadiums than them. You know what I mean? And so, again, it's the way things are. People love music, but people also love who they identify with. And when you start having the global conversations, people are going to align with people that look like them. Also, one last thing. I think I said this in the TLC bit. Janet also comes from an era where, because people were selling so many records in the US, you know, people were selling 9, 10, and 11, 12 million copies of an album. They didn't have to go overseas if they didn't want to because they sold enough records. I said that about TLC. TLC never went overseas to promote, like other than the UK and one spot date in Japan and like an event in South Korea when they're promoting 3D. They never went overseas. Why? Because they sold enough records in the United States. There was a time period where you know, again, the US was the biggest music market. So as long as you had the US in the palm of your hands, you were good. So, you know, you done sold however many records. Do you really feel like going to Slovenia? Probably not. But, you know, as times changed and we became this society that was obsessed with titles and who's the greatest and how many number ones, things are like, okay, well, now people are fighting and clawing to get these different titles. And so some of these people that have these titles, you know, they had to do a whole lot extra when it wasn't even needed. And again, it's like you burned yourself out to get a title. Cool. And at the end of the day, I personally feel like that people have more respect for what it was that Janet Jackson did than Madonna, mainly because Janet is actually likable. Madonna's mean as hell. Like, I'd never want to work with her. Nasty attitude. And I'm like, for you to just be okay at everything you do, I don't understand why she has such an ego. And then people will try to say, oh, no, it's you being like a male chauvinist and not understanding that she as a woman had to go through all kind of battles. Yes, and so did Grace Jones, and so did Millie Jackson, and so did every other black female entertainer. So there's that. I'm going to shut up on that. I ain't mean to rant on Janet, but y'all know y'all come after Janet. There is no Jackson slander on this channel. Anyway, thank you, Tamika Miles. I didn't realize Madonna's early sound was crafted by producers who used a black sound. No wonder. I like some of her 80s music. Yeah, my parents even, I think, have her first record, or maybe even the second one. But yeah, like Madonna, I'm not going to take away what she's done. I think she's done well for herself. For her to be literally the best-selling female artist of all time and had just enough voice to get by and just enough stage presence to get by, she did good for herself. But again, there's also that conversation of privilege and a machine that was behind her. Y'all can't sit here and say they put the same money into Janet that they put into Madonna. Never. Janet deserves more. I feel like, I hate to say it, but people won't respect Janet until she kicks the bucket. The same way they did Whitney. Think about 2012 before Whitney passed. She was the laughing stock of the world. People fried her up after that tour didn't go well, and people made fun of her because you remember she got sick and she had to take a little steroid, so it made her puff up and gain weight, and they trashed that woman. And then the minute she died, all of a sudden the next day she's the greatest, and oh, everybody's crying, and she was a part of my childhood. I was like, y'all energy be full of crap. I'm somebody where entertainment wise, as long as you do right by the people, I will always support you. Even in your older years when you're not as, you know, popular in mainstream. That's why, like, pretty much any R&B artist that comes out, I will still purchase their album. It don't matter. Like, I just bought the After 7 project. Like, it doesn't matter how old an act is. If they always made good content and they've always kind of just been decent people, I will still support them. I'm not going to wash and write people off just because maybe, I don't know, their voices change over time, or maybe they don't hit the dance moves like they used to, or maybe the music isn't even as strong. But no, I think we as a collective have to kind of stop washing away some of our entertainers as well. But no, this industry has always tried to shut out black entertainers. And you already know people don't respect black art anyway. So there's that. That's why I always say I don't value white opinions on black content. Sorry. All the Madonna fans were like dragging Janet through the mud. I'm like, how dragging Janet? And she was sleeping minding her business. She ain't even said nothing. Y'all are mad at Lizzo. But okay. All right. Sorry, I did not mean to rant. Y'all know I get on Janet. I get pissed off. Somebody said, no Janet Jackson hate. Not even LaToya Reed. Exactly. Look, I even rock with LaToya. She got a song or two I like. A song or two I do. She got a song called You Blue that I like. I kind of wish Janet would have sang it instead. But it's a funky little song because Full Force produced it. But she got another song called, like, what is it called? I think He's a Player. I like that one too. Let's go ahead and do a little something. And, you know, Rebe had Centipede. And what's that song she came out with in like 97? I love the Jacksons. All right. I'm going to shut up on Janet because I don't want to spoil my little documentary that comes out on the 24th that I have worked so hard on. All right. Anyway, I'm going to wind down. So we'll hang for like 30 minutes. I think I covered most of what I needed to cover. Oh, my friend's cussing me out. You saw Candyman without me? Yes, because I knew I was doing this live. My bad. Sorry. Jesus. Okay. That's my road dog, though. All right, let me see. I'm going to read some comments, and then we'll chat for a little bit, and then I'm going to get off this for a little. We got to schedule another Zoom party, too. We had a really fun time when we did it a few months back. Somebody said, we saw all of Madonna in one of Janet's breasts. True. That's a lot. And it's interesting. I wonder how different things would have been had something like that happened in 2021. I'm sure it would have been such a different response. Oh, that's a good conversation, Leo. Dion walks so Whitney could fly. People do sleep on Dion. I had to get like educated on Dion in like the last few years too. Yeah, Dion has had a great career. It's interesting she's not really a part of the conversation because she really was like that first pop star we've ever had, like in the collective, as far as like global acclaim, even before Aretha. Um, Somebody said, is it worth touring in Eastern Europe? It's worth touring if you have enough interest that's there. But again, like in certain parts of the world, there are certain genres that are not heavily popular. Or again, if you haven't been heavily pushed, like going overseas, depending on where you go, depending on what kind of show you have, it costs a lot of money to kind of move these different sets and everything. That's what, again, it's so funny they keep saying she's not known in Europe. I'm like, y'all realize like the Velvet Rope tour started. She started that tour in Europe because at that point in time with the Velvet Rope, she was in more demand in Europe because of the success of Together Again than she was in America, because Velvet Rope had a very slow start in this country. So it's interesting how people do things. But I do think it's worth touring in Europe if you have that following. Somebody like Tina Turner, she went the rock route, which is a little bit different. Europe is more receptive to rock music. So, and again, the leverage that she had in Europe was stronger than in America. So she ended up selling more records overseas than she did in the US as a solo act. If you ever want to get Tina Turner, watch that 2000 tour. That was the 24/7 tour. Tina was kind of eating that up. I was like, all right, Tina. Am I scratching the mic? I'm sorry, I didn't know. Oh, you know what it is? I think, dang, hold on. My chair is on the same rug as this mic. Sorry, y'all. Hold on, let me move this mic over. Oh, it's gonna make some noise for a sec. All right. That should make it stop doing that. Sorry, y'all. Thank you, Glam Gal. Azalea Bancroft said, now love me some bedtime stories. Hey, I like some of her music. I like Bedtime Stories was a nice album. I'm not gonna knock her music. Her music is all right. It's more rooted in pop. I won't take away what she's done and what it was she had, but I'm not gonna do it at the expense of other Black entertainers who had to work harder. Absolutely not. But anyway, they're about to have a Whitney hologram in Las Vegas. You already know how this industry is. They make so much money off people after they die. They'll disrespect them while they're alive and then sign it and cash the check after they're dead. Somebody said we're a flip-flopping species. I don't know if we're flip-flopping. Maybe if you're talking as humans, yeah, maybe. I think collectively as a race, I don't think we're flip-flopping. I just think, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't think it's flip-flopping. I think it depends on how people are raised. You know what I mean? I was raised on my parents' music plus what I grew up on. And so I was always well-versed in everything. There's some people that are very into the now and into what's in the moment, and they really have no, they could care less about whatever happened in the past. And so there are some people who are a little disconnected, but yeah, it is what it is. Good point. Somebody said they want Black music. They just don't want it from us. Yes, that's why so many people blow up. Even going back to this Janet thing, I said I was going to shut up. It's even like when you talk about the accolades and influence. I even look at like Britney Spears and how they have tried so hard to paint it as if Madonna was the biggest inspiration of Britney when that girl has clearly said it was Janet. Like, it's the most interesting thing. Both were her inspiration, but if you go and even follow Britney in those early years, and when she went on that first tour and didn't even have enough material to perform, she was performing Janet songs. That's all I'm saying. She was up there doing Black Cat Nasty. So interesting. People love to rewrite history. I'm going to talk about Madonna paved the way for Whitney. What kind of nonsense? ZZ said Rihanna's more like Madonna. I can see that. Like, I can see Rihanna. Rihanna's a bit of a few things, but I see that in the conversation of like imaging and shock value. Yeah, I think that's more fitting. Have you heard of this Costco girl mess? What is that? I don't know. I saw Ajax was trending. I didn't get a chance to read what it was trending about because I had to get on this. But y'all can fill me in on that. Do I think award shows are racist? I think it's race. I hate to always be that person that got to find the racism in everything, but yes, I also think there's a cultural disconnect. And I think with a lot of things, you got a lot of people making decisions up top that can't relate to the content. I never really jump into, if there's ever like a greatest of all time list, I won't even look at it because I know it's going to be some BS. If it's not backed by like numbers and stats, that's why like that set I said about Janet and like being number 7, that's backed by actual chart positions and radio success. And like, that's an actual stat you can't refute. But when they start doing like the objective or subjective conversations about who's the greatest at this and greatest at that, I never pay attention to it because a lot of times you're just never going to get it right. Because especially when you're trying to include any and everything in all the genres, people are always going to get left out. Remember when VH1 used to have like the one-hit wonder show? I remember growing up thinking SOS Band was a one-hit wonder and their only hit was Take Your Time, Do It Right, because that's what VH1 told me. And then my mom was like, excuse me? And then she pulls out all these records and it's like, you know, it got Tell Me If You Still Care and Weekend Girl and The Finest and all these other songs. I'm like, oh, I would have never known. Like, again, it's kind of like, it's all in like context and interpretation. I remember watching when MTV had like the 20th birthday bash and TLC was getting ready to perform and they had like the boys from Hanson. And I think they'd asked him like, what's your first memory of TLC? And the guy was like everybody else, Waterfalls. And I almost fell out of my chair like, what? That was your first memory? Mine was Ain't Too Proud to Bang. Like there was a whole album before that. But again, culturally people, when you talk about that conversation of crossing over, a lot of times people don't recognize our stuff until we cross all the way over. And then you get thrown to the wolves once you cross over. All right. Somebody said they can't stand Dion's voice. I like Dion's voice. I think it depends on what song you listen to. Like I like the Love This Never Way Again song. And I like her version of like Walk On By and Alfie. Like I think it depends. Maybe older Dion, because she's a little bit older now, you know, she has that like old lady vibrato that they get when you get older. But she was all right with me. I didn't realize she could belt the way she did until I really like dug into her stuff. All right. What is my fitness? Oh, y'all notice I've been going to the gym. No, just kidding. No, I just do like 30 quick minutes at the gym and then do some push-ups when I get home. That's all. I just wanted to make sure that COVID crap didn't kick my behind. And, you know, a lot of people started swelling up during COVID. There was a moment my face got real full. I got nervous. I was like, all right, I got to exercise a little bit. I'm laying around too much. SWV deserves more respect. I love that group. They're dope. They're dope. Oh, this is a fun question. Oh, I want y'all to answer this one too. All right. If you could put together a super group of male R&B singers for season 2 of the Encore, who are you picking? That would be fun. If I went by current acts, as far as like anybody after like 2010-ish, well, no, I'll just say current acts, meaning they're still releasing stuff right now and they're under the age of 35. Based on vocals, Mario, vocals. Lucky Day already has his own thing going, but he can be in the group. I like Lucky Day. Mario, Lucky Day. Giveon has an interesting texture in his voice, so that would be kind of interesting to hear in a group dynamic. Gallant. One more. Oh, Luke James. Okay, that would be a fun 5 to hear vocally. If I went to a little bit older, Tevin Campbell, Phil Perry, Kevon Edmonds, one of the Casey and JoJo brothers, either Casey or JoJo. They can rock, paper, scissors to see who goes on. Cisco, and I wonder what happened to this kid. Was it Jesse Powell? Is it Jesse Powell? I think it's, I hope I'm not mixing up the Jesse. There's a Jesse from the 80s, and I think that's who sings From This Day Forward. Let me make sure I got the right Jesse. I don't want to get them mixed up. I'll be getting the names all wrong. I think it's Jesse Powell. Yeah, okay, Jesse Powell. Them 6. That would be a dope group vocally to listen to. Calvin, thoughts on VMAs? Psh, I'm not even watching that crap. Do you think Aaliyah should get the Vanguard Awards? I don't think they would give it to her just because, I don't know, there's so many other artists they haven't given them to that should have been gotten them. I don't think they pay attention to Aaliyah enough to care, honestly, not to be rude. But she deserves more. I think she had, especially, it just sucks that she's not here. There was so much that was coming from that woman. Kind of sucks. All right. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Dang, why is this thing's not even showing my full chat? Here we go. All right. FF807 now said, I get upset with some of these one-hit wonders. It's full of lies. For example, Bobby Caldwell is not a one-hit wonder. My Flame is my jam. Yeah, I thought all these people were one-hit wonders watching that show. And I was like, wait a minute. Do I prefer, the FM4 said, do I prefer long or short albums? If the album is good, I don't care if it's long. I will jam it all day. I get pissed when it's a short album and it ain't even good. That pissing me off. I think you just need a balanced album. You won't even realize an album is long if it's good because it's that well put together. I think sometimes there's some albums that have too many songs and you never go anywhere. And so you definitely, if you're gonna, like, I think a good time frame for an album is anywhere between like 45 minutes to maybe about an hour max, maybe an hour 10. And that's and on that latter half, that's if the material is really just that good, and especially the music and stuff. I don't mind short albums because some short albums are classics. Like I think there's some albums that are only like 10 songs that are great. Especially like when you go back to the 80s, a lot of projects were only, 8 or 9 songs. So I prefer either or. They just have to be good. Don't give people a whole bunch of fluff. Oh, somebody say, can we talk about this crate challenge foolishness? All right, y'all, don't judge me. If I was 17 or 18, I would have done it. I would have been right on that crate because I know I would have been able to do it. I'm too scared to do it now because if I fall, I'm gonna be hurt for like 3 months. But I know if I was 17, 18, 19, I would have been the first one running up them crates. Sorry, it's just I'm thinking as my younger self, I definitely would have did it because I was up for the challenge. There was this time period in high school for like a year where I wanted to be a stunt double. I don't know where it came from because I'm the scariest. I'm scared of everything now these days as far as physical harm and falling off stairs and crap. But there was this time period where I wanted to be a stunt double for like a year. I don't know where it came from, but yeah. So around that time, I definitely would have did the crate challenge. But all these grown folks that good and well, you got that bad back. You gonna sit there and try to climb that thing. I saw some horrible falls. Versus is still. I haven't seen that. Versus is kind of dead now. They're gonna have to figure out something else. My favorite song off MJ's Invincible album, probably Break of Dawn or Heartbreaker. I remember thinking Heartbreaker sounded so cool because of the production when it first came out. It didn't sound like anything that was out. All right. I'm going to keep it moving. Oh, RL from Next. I forgot about Homeboy. He could be in the group, JP Mackey. Yeah, we could throw him in the group. He was a good vocalist. He was able to hold his own against Deborah Cox in We Can't Be Friends. And, that's a singing woman right there. So for him to be able to still carry his own, yeah, he could definitely be in the group. Somebody said Music Soul Child. I think I'd put him in a different group. I'd make like a neo soul group. It would be like him, D'Angelo, Maxwell, Amp Fiddler, Anthony Hamilton, like that. I'd put them in a group like that. I don't know if music would quite fit in with the Squalor group because he's not really a squalor. He has a very smooth approach to all his music. I say there are certain entertainers where when they sing, it's like you're literally having a conversation with them. I think Music Soul Child is one of those people. I think even Aaliyah vocally, her sound was like a conversation sometimes. And so people have these very interesting textures to their voice. I think music has that as well. So he can tell a really great story. Like sometimes when I listen to his stuff, especially like songs like, what's the one? I Would Love You Till Your Hair Turns Gray. Like that one, like that's such a great kind of story that's there. Or even Soul Star, that opening number on that album, like he has a great way to tell a story. And he doesn't even do too much either. He knows how to do just enough. So, all right. Oh, Leon Bridges. I forgot about him. What would I put him? I would put him in one of the more, there's not a lot of acts like Leon Bridges that are out. But if I could find some other people that kind of have his same sound, because, he kind of does a very throwback Sam Cooke kind of approach, I'd kind of put him with that group. All right. Oh, I skipped Wanya from Boys and Men too? Dang, well, we're going to make 2 groups. There's too many in the group because now we done got up to 8. And I already told you, just like I said with the BT Encore, 9 people's too many. I don't like groups that got more than like 5. It's too many persons. Dang, I skipped Joe too. All right, we got to make a new group. Joe, Wanye, Carl Thomas can go in that group. We need 2 more people. Somebody from Silk and somebody from Blackstreet. That could be a group. because Joe sings down. Like the one voice I wish I had is Joe's. Joe be singing, like singing. Joe be pulling notes out of all kind of pockets. Man, he gets it in. He's one of my favorites. Simply Nasty. I'll be sure. I was never a fan of I'll Be Sure's voice. I like Night and Day, and I liked the Understanding song, and I liked Off on Your Own, but live, I don't know, maybe his voice developed a little bit more as he got older. He just never really had great performances back in the day. Not to take him down. I still like his music, but I mean, unless he's going to be doing like the shibba doop doop doops in the background and let the other ones lead the songs, yeah, that might work. But I can't see him, going against, Casey and JoJo, trying to sing against them or Phil Perry of all people. I mean, unless I'll Be Sure focuses on his falsetto, maybe that works. If he's like kind of like 5 Heartbeats, it was like Choir Boy, then maybe yeah. But I'll Be Sure doesn't really belt. So, oh, y'all made sure I got this Jesse Powell right. I'm just now at the Jesse Powell section in the comments. All right. This is fun here. What up, Ashley Harris? Yeah, Break It Down was a good song. That's a great one. Somebody said, do you want, you want Calvin to go on a rant? Ask him Full Moon or Aphrodisiac. I prefer Aphrodisiac. Sorry. Full Moon, I think, is a great album vocally. Aphrodisiac is the album I clicked with. I love that. That's the when I used to steal my car to teach myself how to drive, I had that album on because it was very calming. So yeah. Are my students doing it? No, they better not be doing no crate challenge under my watch and then we get sued. Nope. I already told them, don't do nothing crazy. Not under my watch. I will not be responsible for you breaking your arm. Nope. All right. What up, portfolio? Wait, sorry. Portrait. What does that say? Where the glasses at? Portrait of. Oh, portrait of a lady. Sir, learn how to read. Okay. That's like that time I went to McDonald's asking for a parfait when I was trying to get a parfait. All right. What up, Tina McCants? All right, we're gonna keep going. Oh yeah, Jadakiss killed that last verses. He killed that one against Dipset and all them. Yeah, he held his own. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Don't leave out In Vogue. Cat BX. If I was gonna make a girl group, like on like how they do on BT Encore, I would definitely make one with all the ex members of the different girl groups. Like I'd mix a member from SWV. Like I'd take Coco from SWV. It's a draw between Terry and Max from In Vogue. Those are my 2 favorites in the group. Nikki from Brownstone. Mila from 702. Look, all the 702 that ended up on this show. Who else? Trying to think of some of these groups here. One of the Changing Faces girls. Oh, Athena Cage from Cut Close, definitely. That'd be a fun group. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Yes, I do rock with Gallant. I like his latest project, or the latest project. Stokely. I forgot about Stokely from In Condition. Hey, man, see how many good people used to be out? Like, it's just so many names we can name. So many people. Stokely, I like that Stokely's had a resurgence in the last few years. All of his solo stuff is really good. I do want another Mint Condition album, by the way. And I kind of want another Tony album as well. I was listening to Sons of Soul this morning. I forgot how good that album is. That's the one with Anniversary and Lay Your Head on My Pillow. And Slow Wine on that. I think Slow Wine's on that one. Ex-Girlfriend. There's some good. That's a good album. Check that one back out. That's a dope album. Oh, the song was Don't Change. That was the Music Soul Child song. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Simply Nisi White or YT. Song is Don't Change. I'm glad y'all caught that. All right. This thing is so late, and I'm like 5 minutes behind in the chat. All right, let me scroll down to the bottom. This thing is like not giving me my chat on at the right pace. That's all right. Oh, thank you, DTQ Tink founder. Thank you. I'd be struck. I know I got my. Oh, here they go. Bam. It's on the popping now. What's good? All right. Bam. Look at this glare. I can. Oh, I can see now. All right. And these are those the little blue reflective things, so you don't get your eyes all jacked up. Oh, we cranking now. It's on and popping. Somebody said Lily holds her own from SWV. Leon versus said that. I love Lily. She was on, to me, she was gorgeous. I used to think she was so fine when I was little, especially in the You're the One for Me video. I used to love some Lily. Lily is gorgeous. I like her personality too. She's real cool. All right, I'm gonna keep scrolling. Can Ruben Stutter get in the group? Dang, I forgot about Ruben. You know, I saw him at the barbershop one time. It was when I was still at Howard. He was at my barbershop. I used to go to Best Cuts on Georgia Avenue years ago. He was in a barbershop. Somebody said, wait, do I think R&B is dead? No, I don't think R&B is dead. Okay, so when I say R&B is dead, I started that series in 2012 or 2011. And when I started the series, it was at a time period where commercially R&B was no longer getting the push in radio. And at the time, the industry was shifting from digital to streaming. And so a lot of R&B artists just weren't doing good. And it was all about EDM and fist pumping all night, all day. So I started the series to just talk about how, you know, R&B was being ignored. But if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the episodes, we recognize that R&B music is still here. It's just all the great stuff is in the trenches of the internet. So the conversations on that series either talk about marketing ideas, or they go into like music history, or they just talk about, you know, different acts to kind of check out. Or I talk about historically what trends were able to work. Like, I'm somebody who definitely believes for seasoned artists that are older that may not necessarily be appealing to young artists, cross-generational collaborations is always a great idea. Always a great idea, because it kind of introduces seasoned acts to, you know, younger artists. I talk about, you know, hopping in front of a trend instead of riding a trend. That way, when the trend dies, you don't die down with it. I had a whole section where I talked about like when New Jack Swing came out, there were a lot of artists that came out as New Jack Swing artists and never quite transitioned out of New Jack Swing. And so when New Jack Swing slowed down, they slow down too. They don't know where to be found. So it kind of jumps into a bunch of different elements. It talks about, you know, how a lot of our stuff gets stolen, and how, you know, there's just so many layers as to why Black music gets treated the way it's treated. But no, I don't think R&B is dead. I think there's a lot of really great music. You just have to dig for it. And I think that's what I hate. I miss the days of music just fell in your lap. And I miss the days of everybody knowing about the good music, so you could have somebody to rock and vibe out to. Like my good friend Whitney, I always rock with her because we can get in the car, and, you know, you got to have that one friend where you can just cut a fool in the car to every song that comes on. Like, it's hard to do that these days with people in this new era, because everybody kind of listens to their own thing. And now that you also have a lot of indie artists that have come out, and there's a lot of like artists that are big on the internet, that idea of the entire country listening to the same songs doesn't really exist anymore outside of the pop realm. So that's kind of what that's about. All right, let's see. Oh, Gerald Levert, rest in peace. Gerald Levert be singing too. He be getting it in. Getting it in. What do you think about the student loan debt crisis and cancellation? I do think that school is way too expensive, and I think it sucks. I was even looking at Howard. Like, the tuition has doubled since I got out of Howard. And I just got out of Howard like 10 years ago, and tuition is twice that already. I think, and really we already know that the reason why is, one, college initially was only for the elite. That's the initial purpose. And so, because again, when colleges started to form in this country, we were still a very agricultural and industrial nation. And so, well, not even industrial, we were really just agricultural. You know, you had the slavery and everything else going on. But, you know, college was for the super, super wealthy. And it's interesting that now that, you know, more people have a desire to get an additional education, they want to make it super expensive. I don't understand how college tuition continues to skyrocket and inflate. Whatever, I mean, other things in this country are inflating, but college is just ridiculously expensive for no reason. And so I feel really bad for like a lot of Gen Z, and I feel bad for kids that are in high school now. And even like in 10 years, people are going to come out of undergrad with $230,000, $240,000 of debt, depending on where they go to school, especially if they don't go to a state school. And I think that sucks. And so when I hear like conversations coming from maybe older generations that went to college in the 60s and 70s, where it was only a few $1,000s, if that, for the entire 4 years. And they say, oh, well, you know, I worked at Wendy's and paid my stuff off. Yeah. At the same time, like if you go to University of Maryland in 1971, tuition was like $700 a semester. So yeah, you could go to Wendy's and pay your school off, but you can go look at University of Maryland College Park right now. It ain't no $700. That's one book. So I think millennials got a short end of the stick. I think the latter half of Gen X got a short end of the stick. Gen Z has a crappy deal. And so you have all these people that have this crazy debt and the interest. And then you had a lot of loan sharks screw over a lot of students the same way Countrywide did with housing back before the housing bubble burst, where they pretty much preyed, you know, the predatory lending. That's happening even with college students. And sadly, for students that go to for-profit schools, same thing. So yeah, they need to do something. College should not be this expensive. And I think it sucks that you expect somebody to, you know, especially if they get like a liberal arts degree or something, or they get a degree where they still have to go back and get additional schooling before they can really be considered a professional in their field. I think it sucks for somebody to be 23, 24, and they have 6 figures of debt because they wanted to better themselves. And then depending on what field they're in, the job market doesn't even pay them enough for them to ever really pull themselves out. Because again, people are still going to want to buy a house and car or start a family, and you're still trying to put in a trust fund or put in funding for your up and coming children so they can go to school, and you ain't even paid your stuff off. I think that sucks. So they need to figure out something. America's just been doing everything wrong the last 30, 40 years. Figure it out, please, because goodness. All right, let me scroll down. I don't know why I took these glasses off while I'm over here squinting. Somebody said y'all had McGill and Frank Ocean in 2012. Yeah, but McGill's project didn't even sell that well, oddly enough. The one with Adorn, great project, but had that same project come out in like 2005 or earlier, it would have definitely moved more units. Frank Ocean, of course, was very successful, but that's because he already had a lot of backing. Because remember, he was part of like Odd Future and all of that, so he had to kind of build that anticipation. He had like a cult following, so yeah. But I think by the time you got to 2012, you had a handful of people that were sprinkled in that had some success. It was becoming a norm in 2012 for people to sell like 60,000 copies their first week if they were an R&B act. But the pop acts at that time and hip hop acts were still selling 300,000 and 400,000 copies of an album. Now, you know, the narrative has shifted because we're now in streaming and digital purchasing. And so it's hard to measure what the threshold should be measured against. But, you know, things have changed. I do think R&B is in a better position now than it was in 2012. Oh, I forgot about Jade. Yeah, Jade's a fun group. Yeah, I used to tear down some that first album. The second album was cool too, but that first album, that's the one with Don't Walk Away. Do I think any of the Trump family will do any time at all? I don't know. I honestly don't know. They be doing so much, the way they be ready to lock black folks up for the smallest thing, but then when it comes to these folks, they got so much investigating and this, that. I don't think anybody, I don't know. We'll see. But even if one of them get locked up, I feel like that's going to be chaos. Them crazy, extreme, hardcore, willing to kill in the name of Trump supporters are definitely going to do something. If something happens to anybody in that family, they're going to be ready to blow up something. All right, they're going to show up everywhere, ready to spray everybody. Yes, that compound interest is a mother. Yeah, I know that's right, Enoch. Like, man, I'd be feeling bad. And then, you know, if people defer their loans and everything, the interest just keeps building. Like, dang. Some people really had like loans with like 11 and 12% interest. Like people that were like desperate to really just get something to give them a viable chance to go to school. And it's like, man, that's crazy. Yes, house price debt. That's exactly what that is, Miss Cool Gemini. All right, Sam J, but I'm halfway to getting my PhD in psychology. Nothing's gonna stop. Good. Look, I'm gonna come to you afterwards. I've been looking for a therapist. So like, I'm gonna reach out. Let me know. Let me know when you're ready. um, let's see. Get it together or leave it alone. That's a good little Jackson 5 song too. It's like right before they got ready to switch over to CBS and change the name, and Jermaine was about to leave. All right. Okay, I'm gonna wind down. Where's okay, sorry, this thing keeps skipping. It's funny how now we say units. I still say copies. Yeah, I still say copies. I still say albums, records. Oh, look at you, Ashley. Antwi knowing the good girls. The good who do y'all remember them? Like they were a girl group from like the late 80s. I always remember them because they were on MC Trouble's Make You Mine. But they had another song I like called I Need Your Love. That was a bop right there. That was like one of them good New Jack Swing songs. I wonder what happened to them. All right, that was a good little that was a good flashback. Amber Dean asks, isn't New Edition making a comeback? I think they are. I think they were planning to do like a tour too with like all 6. I do love that we support a lot of our veteran acts now. I think the emergence of social media created an emergence of a lot of seasoned acts that kind of disappeared. Because there was a time period like before social media, it was really hard for a lot of artists that may have fallen off after the 70s or the 80s or even the early 90s to still like tour and actually pull in an actual crowd because you know, you're not gonna. The networks are not gonna play their videos. Radio's not gonna play them. They might be able to get some airplay on, urban AC radio stations, but other than that, and I think they just changed the name of that. It's not called urban AC stations anymore. I forgot what it's called. But it used to be so hard for a lot of season acts to really pull their weight, and that's why so many. Like if you watch something like Unsung, and you see a lot of the artists when they talk about what happened after they stopped performing or the album sales slow, they're like, yeah, I went and got a job. I went and I worked as a realtor. I went and I got me a job as an assistant director of something. Or, now that times have changed, I think with social media and emergence of YouTube, and people can kind of go back and reflect and relive. And then a lot of the artists themselves are on platforms. It's definitely been able to generate a space where artists can now tour consistently, like year round. There's some acts that tour all year and they still bring a crowd in every time. Like En Vogue tours all year, and they don't even have the original 4. They still be selling everything out with 2 original members plus Rona, be selling everything out. So that's pretty dope. Or somebody like Layla Hathaway, who never really blew up, but people love what she can do with her voice. And like, I think after 2012, Layla like stays like booking some shows, like some serious shows, and like pulling real numbers, which is really dope. And even now you're seeing a lot of people who may have only had one album that kind of jumped on or hit. And even those people are able to tour off of one album that came out 10, 15, 20 years ago. So that's pretty dope. All right. This has been a good little night. I got to do more lives. It's hard to do them right now with my schedule because literally my only free nights right now are Mondays and Sundays. Like I have something every other night. So it's hard to do this. That's why it's such a struggle to get the end of news episodes out too. There's so many things I'm trying to do because I'm trying to keep this going, but also branch and do other things too. Because I don't want all of my tokens in one machine, just in case YouTube decides, all right, you be on here shaking the table too much, we're gonna get rid of you. All right. Artists like Chris Brown, Black, Trey Songz, Her, Normani, Giveon, R&B is alive and well. I think the conversation, there's layers to it. It's not just like sometimes I wish I could have changed the title of that series because I really just make it like R&B music conversations, but people know it as R&B is dead, so I've kept the title. I think it's here, but I'm also bored still. I think too much of the same thing. Everybody's still doing the whole vibe music thing. I'm bored with it. It's cool, but it's like even the vibe music hasn't even evolved. It's almost becoming redundant. So I'm a little bored with that. And y'all know I like a good up tempo here and there. Just give me something with some energy. But I miss the singers, like the squallers. There's some people that do a little something here and there. And it's not to take away from those people I just listed. I think they're all very talented. But and especially like Chris has been really hanging on for like the last 15 years. So good for him. But I don't know. I'm not moved by a lot of artists. There's a lot of the people I like are like people either nobody ever heard of, or I've gone back and I've rediscovered somebody. And like, yeah. Crimson said favorite A. Marie album. All I have. Yeah, I don't even think it's close. All I have is my favorite. My second favorite would have probably been between Touch or what's the fourth album she had? The fourth album that has Why Are You on it. I like that one. I forgot. I think it's Love and War. That was a good one. Black Women Read said the reality folks had to live off those loans too. Yep, you see it. That's your food and everything else too. As you can only qualify if you take full-time classes, which is 3 or 4 a term. How can one even live? Exactly. And they got to figure this all out. I really thought when COVID hit and the whole country just kind of went to ish, that was the opportunity to really pivot and restructure how everything goes. Like I was about to say America could be so great, but that's gonna sound like I'm endorsing somebody. But America could have really went in a much better direction afterwards and really restructured how things went. And instead, it went right back to business as usual. I was like, dang, which sucks. Terrible. What happened to Maxwell? You know, Maxwell, one of the people that be taking like 10 years between each album. But I do know, like, his voice, he had a corrective surgery, but I know his falsetto, he kind of lost some of it. He doesn't really use his falsetto anymore unless he's in studio. Like, if you get to see him live, he's going to sing everything out of head and chest voice. He's not really going to do a lot of falsetto because it's not in the same condition it was once in, which kind of sucks because a lot of his, you know, the gems, a lot of them are sung completely in falsetto. Like, I love the Mellow Hush version of something something, like it's called Mellow Hush Smooth. That's a very, like, it's just, he sounds amazing on that. But the majority of it is in falsetto. So yeah, stuff like that kind of sucks. But when I saw him at the Kennedy Center with the National Symphony Orchestra. He was still really good. Somebody said TikTok brought a lot of old songs back. It does. I think that's what's one of the cool things about like TikTok and again social media. You kind of see a reemergence of a lot of content and a lot of acts and movies and things within the culture that kind of get a second win, which I think is really cool. Okay, all right, Spoken Wisdom. Look at us being on the same page. First, Amory album is the best, and then Love and War. We on the same. We see each other. Yeah, Anita Baker's still fighting for her publishing. I think I talked about that on the last live. Yeah, that's the other thing. Even with the whole conversation around streaming, there's a lot of artists, especially if you were on a label that folded or something. It's so hard to get all that stuff figured out. I was looking for, remember PM Dawn, and they had that song Set Adrift, Memory Bliss. Like, that's my song. And you can't even find it anywhere. They have like the re-recorded versions that are never as good. I was like, what is this crap? Fortunately, I have the actual CD, but I wanted to stream it in my little work playlist because I was, jamming out at work. I was like, I want to hear that song. I had to listen to it on YouTube. But yeah. Let's see. All right, we got like 10 minutes because I need to go to bed. I got like 2 meetings tomorrow. Yay, so excited. Yeah, Erica Davis said Maxwell tour back in 2016, 2018. Yeah, I remember that. And then the show that I saw was in 2019. That was the Kennedy Center one. It's crazy. I haven't been to a concert since March of 2020. Yeah, like Lauryn Hill was the last concert I saw, and then a week later the country shut down. I have tickets to see Erykah Badu at MGM, and I have tickets to see Shaka Khan. I don't know if the concerts are still happening. It kind of depends on what's happening with the variant, I guess. But hopefully I can at least get to see Shaka. Because actually I've seen all of them before, but I would love to see both. But Erica be doing that weird stuff sometimes at her show where she be up there chanting for 20 minutes. I'm like, can you get to Next Lifetime already? All right. Oh, that's a good idea. Ashley said, Calvin, Zoom party suggestion, music exchange party or silent disco for 80s and 90s music. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We had a lot of fun on the last Zoom party. That was kind of cool. I was trying to go to bed. Y'all kept going. I think we was on that thing till like 1:30. And then one of the people's like, yo, look at like his eyes are red. Please let him get some rest. Why did he have surgery? I think it was something. I don't know if he had nodules or something. You know, a lot of singers, you do a lot of touring and stuff. You start getting nodules and stuff sometimes. So a lot of people have to get corrective surgery. Oh, dang. One of them died? Well, dang. I didn't know that. E. Julian, one of them passed a few years ago. That's in relation to PM Dawn. Well, dang. All right, we are almost done. I got 5 minutes. This has been good, y'all. I'll try to do another Zoom before the end of September. I gotta just get all these other little things that I told y'all I'm gonna get done for y'all like out. I don't want to keep pushing because that poor shout out series has gotten pushed back so many times. And then again, I had to redo the So It Happened 4 times. Oh, the lead singer that well dang. Okay, they ain't gonna be performing no more. Oh, that sucks. Man. Oh no. I don't know. That's one of the things that makes it hard about getting older too. Like just recognizing mortality. I'd be thinking about it all the time because like all of my favorite relatives are getting older. I start getting nervous. Oh, dang. All right. I'll do like 2 more questions, then I'm gonna get on off of here. Get my. I haven't even had dinner, y'all. I was so busy fighting with the stupid software because the stuff wasn't working. Like that's why I bumped it up to like 9:05 so I could get 5 more minutes to figure it out. So I didn't even get to eat dinner. So I'm gonna eat dinner at 11:10. I'm sure I'll pay for it later. But anyway, mods, thank y'all for holding it down. Thank you for holding down the fort. When's the next Zoom party? I don't know yet. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But it's within the next month and a half. I know that because we were supposed to do the second one in July, and then life happened. Yeah, I hate when I have more than a week between content. I can't stand if I go more than 7 days without uploading something because I'd be feeling guilty. But life happens, you know? And I'm in a field that's very demanding. And then I have other things that also happen. So it is what it was. Somebody said, how was Candyman? It was cool. You know, like I said, I liked it. The last 30 minutes lost me a little bit, but I still think it was decent. I was still entertained the entire time. It just kind of seems like it ended abruptly. He had diabetes and kidney failure. You know, let me drink some water too. Look, I got water too. I had ginger tea, but let me just drink some water. Zoom party on October 31st with costume. You know, I've worn the same costume every Halloween. I don't even really wear costumes like that anymore, but I was on a Sunday this year. I used to dress up like LL Cool J every Halloween because it was the easiest costume. I could just put on the Kangol hat and the shades and the chain and the jacket. But now I got too much hair. The hair don't be fitting in the hat. I mean, it fits now because it's all coiled. But like back then, I used to not let it coil. I'd let it just kind of be out a little bit more. The hair could never fit in the hat. One of my coworkers is like, "Here you come and give that same LL Cool J outfit again." Like I was doing that for like 5 years in a row. But anyway. Oh, y'all starting to shoot the shots. Hey, when can I take you out on a date? Y'all gonna get me in trouble with some other people. All right. Left an opening for Candyman 3. It did. It does seem like it's a transitionary type film. Kind of like Matrix. What's the second one? Was that Reloaded? Yeah, like you saw the second installment of the Matrix and you knew something else was coming. Same thing. All right, guys. I'm going to bed. This has been cool. Please stay safe in all of this chaos that we're living under and keep your head straight. You know, the world is going to be the world. We just living in it. It is what it is. All right, I'm out. Good night. I don't think I'll have another video for you guys this week because I'm going out of town driving. We'll see. Anyway, I'm out. I'll see you guys later. Good night.